Chapter 444. South of the dragon-seeking forest Ji County. This was a small county with a population of less than 50,000. At night the sky was filled with stars. A large contingent of the Empire's troops gathered at the open space in the north of the county. The lights from the tents were continuous, and the city of Ji County was also brightly lit. It was rare for the Empress to personally visit Ji County, and even the people of Ji County were very happy. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi stayed in the county magistrate's office, and Zhang Wei personally led the imperial guards to guard the perimeter. Your Highness, these delicacies are the specialties of our Ji County. Look, this is our Ji County's most famous salt and pepper pork trotters. This is delicious chamois stew soup. And this is badger meat with longine vegetables. Please have a good taste, Your Highness and the Princess. The county magistrate bowed and introduced some of the delicacies. At the same time he looked at the old man at the side and said, Sir Chu Chu, you should have a taste too. After living in the dragon-seeking forest for so long, it must have been a long time since you had a good meal. Chu Chu nodded and said, Her Highness and the Princess are having a meal. You may leave. I will call you if there is anything. Yes. The magistrate bowed and left. Qin Yin slowly sat down with a joyous expression on her face. She took out that piece of paper from her bosom and looked at it again and again. The joy on her beautiful face became even more intense. Tang Xiaoxi on the other hand said in a bad mood, This is already the 300th time you have read the letter since this afternoon. Qin Yin burst into laughter. I am happy. Chu Chu also laughed. Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing joined hands to drown the demon army in the wildfire plains and killed more than 60,000 armored demons. This is indeed an unprecedented achievement and changed the fate of the Empire. It is worth celebrating. Your Highness, eat more. Tomorrow morning we will set off to Wugu City to meet up with you and Feng Jixing. We will regain the Empire's territory. You must conserve your strength. Yes. Qin Yin picked up her chopsticks and picked up a piece of muntjac meat and placed it on Tang Xiaoxi's plate. She said with a smile, Xiaoxi should eat more too. Right now I'm counting the most elite troops under your command. The task of recovering lost territory will still be handed over to you. Tang Xiaoxi glared at her and said, Xiao Yin, we are so lovey-dovey. I wonder what Mu will think when she sees this. Qin Yin was as happy as a bird flying out of its cage. She couldn't help but joke with her good sister. I don't know. Maybe brother you will be angry to death. Chu Chu remained silent, not saying a word. Alright, where did Marquis Pingnan Xiangyu go? Qin Yin asked. Chu Chu cupped his fists and said, Xiangyu led nearly 100,000 men out of the dragon-seeking forest yesterday morning and headed towards the direction of the steel wall. How many troops do we have now? Chu Chu thought for a while and said, Commander Suyu still controls nearly 100,000 soldiers from Muyu City. Princess Shi also has nearly 100,000. Together with Zhang Wei, Yao Yuan and the others, we have nearly 240,000 soldiers. Many of them are new recruits recruited from various counties along the way. Their combat power is very average. The main force is the 50,000 demons and 45,000 Longdan army camp under Princess Shi's command. Looks like we really need Xiaoxi to be the main force. Yes, I will. Tang Xiaoxi looked at the steaming dishes quietly and said, I think Mu thought the same when she lent me the main force of Longdan army camp. As they were eating, there was suddenly a noise outside. What's wrong? Qin Yin asked with a frown. Outside, Zhang Wei came in with his sword and cupped his fists and said, Your Highness, a group of armored demons appeared in the east of Ji County and attacked the city. There are about 20,000 of them. Commander Suyu is leading people to resist. Your Highness, please retreat immediately. Another 20,000 armored demons? Qin Yin suddenly stood up and said, What's going on? Isn't the main force of Qianfeng in Songnan province? Why did they appear in the territory of Tianshu province? I don't know either. But this demon army doesn't seem to be Qianfeng's people. There are a few 5-star demon grandmasters in charge. I'm afraid she won't be able to resist them soon. Qin Yin knew the fighting power of the armor demons very well. The arrow boxes and crossbows that accompanied Suyu had long been lost or destroyed. The city wall of Ji County was only 5 meters high and it was made of mud. It couldn't resist the attack of the armor demons. With the crazy fighting power of the armor demons, Su Yu's 100,000 soldiers of Muyu City might not be able to resist the crazy attack of the armor demons even if they were all wiped out. Qin Yin took a deep breath and the peaks on her chest rose and fell slightly. She said, "Little Qi Long's Bao battalion, come with me to battle. We can't let Aunt Ro resist the demons alone. Lord Chu, please come with me. There are 5-star demon grandmasters among the demons and they need your strength." Chu cupped his fists and said, "Yes, your highness." Under the starlight the sound of horse hooves could be heard. They galloped to the east of Ji County. Their fire rose up to the sky. It seemed that Su Yu had used fire to attack, but the effect was not very obvious. The piles of fire couldn't be gathered together. The armor demons crossed the wall of fire and slashed their weapons at the shield formation of the Muyu City's defenders. "Block them. Don't retreat." In the crowd, a captaincy of Muyu City shouted loudly. But the price of blocking them was sacrifice. On the front line of the shield formation outside the city, groups of shield soldiers were harvested by the armor demons like harvesting wheat. In the dark of the night, the black armor demons came from afar. They all looked ferocious and horrible. By the time Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Chu, Zhang Wei, and the others arrived, many of the generals guarding the city had already noticed them. All of them had shocked expressions on their faces. "His Highness is here. Her Highness is here." The crowd was excited, but it didn't seem to improve their fighting power much. Tang Xiaoxi gently waved her hand and said, "Longdan Army Camp, prepare the white drill arrows to reduce the pressure on the Iron Blade Army." "Yes, your highness." A group of Longdan Army Camp soldiers raised their bows and shot a round of arrows into the distance. The effect was obvious. Many armor demons fell to the ground howling in pain. Unlike the arrow formation of the Iron Blade Army, the arrows could only bounce off the bodies of the armor demons and couldn't cause any real damage. Qin Yin dismounted from her horse and slowly walked forward. Her battle boots stepped into the blood as she slowly pulled out the Zine sword. With a shout, rays of golden light appeared around her and turned into the shape of a dragon. It was the second stage of the Dragon Slayer incantation, the Coiling Dragon Strike. With a buzz, the golden light transformed from the god-binding chains exploded in the night sky, blasting dozens of armor demons into pieces. The golden light soared into the sky, inspiring everyone's hearts. "Long live your highness. Your highness is so powerful. The Empire will win." The group of Empire soldiers cheered in unison, but this also seemed to attract the attention of some people in the demon battle formation. Behind the group of armor demons, there were a total of 5 black-robed old men sitting on war horses. Each of them had 5-star sect emblems pinned on their chests. They were all 5-star demon sect powerhouses. Among them, an old man with a long red beard laughed coldly and said, "The god-binding chains of the human martial soul. It's known as the martial soul of a king." Another old man said, "Elder Qi, don't you want to meet this human empress?" Qi smiled, "Elder Jin Huang, don't look down on humans. Qin Yin is still wet behind the ears, so there's nothing to be afraid of. However, the fire cauldron Chu beside her is very powerful. He's a Saint Heaven Realm cultivator. I'm afraid you and I won't be able to stop him by ourselves." Jin Huang's eyes turned cold. "Let's cut to the chase. His Majesty the Demon King sent the 5 of us on a secret mission to coordinate with Marshal Qianfeng and find a chance to kill Qin Yin. Now is a heaven-sent opportunity. How about this? Elder Xuanmi, Elder Zhou Tan and I will block Chu while you and Elder Lan Fu will kill Qin Yin. How about it? You're the number 1 among the 15 elders appointed by His Majesty the Saint Emperor, and your cultivation is also the strongest among us. You're not afraid, are you?" Qi couldn't help but laugh. "No need to provoke me. Let's go and kill Qin Yin. Now is the time. Let's go together." "Yes." Swoosh swoosh swoosh. 5 figures soared into the sky. Although the 5-star demonic grandmasters couldn't fly, they could stay in the air for a short while. Stepping on the air, they created a blood-colored ripple with their grandmaster demonic energy and flew into the sky again. In a few leaps, they had charged into the battle formation of the Imperial Army. Qi condensed a vortex in each of his palms and shouted, "Die, Qin Yin." "Not good." Tang Xiaoxi gritted her teeth, and flames burst out from her body as she suddenly entered the 9-tailed transformation state. Meanwhile, Qin Yin flew in front of Tang Xiaoxi, and with a shake of her sword, 3 true dragon god-binding chains appeared in front of her chest, forming the radiance of the sacred dragon shield. Bang! Qi waved his left palm, and the whirlpool within the vortex exploded on the sacred dragon shield. After all, there was a great disparity in strength. Qin Yin's delicate body trembled slightly, and the sacred dragon shield shattered. The god-binding chains turned into golden light and scattered on the ground. The shattering of her martial spirit also meant that her sea of energy had suffered a certain amount of damage. However, she was unwilling to continue being a coward. She forcefully activated her battle chi, and the 8 god-binding chains once again gathered on the blade of her sword. They lingered together, condensing into the shadow of a fiery red dragon, and whistled out. The 4th style of the Dragon Slayer incantation, Golden Dragon Flames. Qi didn't know how strong this style was, but he could feel the biting cold energy coming from it. He didn't hesitate to raise his right palm and smash it down. Bang! The energy exploded, and the impact forced everyone in the surroundings to retreat. Not far away, Chu had already taken out his fire cauldron, and he was fighting with the 3 5-star demon grandmasters in the midst of the flames. His palm force created streaks of fire in the air, and the air seemed to be filled with master devil force, making it impossible for Chu to fully release his strength. The 3 5-star demon grandmasters rushed to help each other, and one advanced and one retreated to avoid the sharp edge of Chu's fiery palm. Within a short period of time, he was actually unable to kill or injure any of them. Buzz! Flames enshrouded her body, and the 9 flame tails behind Tang Xiaoxi danced lightly. There was a hint of hostility on her beautiful face. Suddenly, she leaped up and tangled with Elder Lan Fu, and her palm was facing Lan Fu's chest. Soul-suppressing seal. Boom! Lan Fu could only use the Master Devil Force to protect his body, but he was still hit so hard that his chi and blood were surging. He couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Little girl, you are so powerful. I like you." The flames around Tang Xiaoxi's body spun rapidly, and a divine seal fell from the starry sky, and the cosmic star seal directly hit Lan Fu's head. Good timing. Lan Fu raised his arm, and the Master Devil Force surged out violently, forcefully blasting away the energy light of the cosmic star seal. However, when he looked down, he saw the smile on Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful face. Her little boots were wrapped in flames, and with a bang, she kicked Lan Fu's waist. It was the simplest attack without any special moves, but it was also the most effective one. The 5 major star demon grandmasters attacked together, and the armor demons seemed to be encouraged. One by one, they waved their spears and axes and roared as they attacked Su Yu's army. The humans had already suffered heavy losses. Under the bright moonlight, the intense sound of horse hooves came from afar, and an old and familiar voice sounded, "God Might Battalion, flank them and kill them. Help Her Royal Highness." The moonlight illuminated the battle flag, which was embroidered with a golden flame. The God Might Battalion had appeared again. Chapter 445. The Divine Might Battalion was equipped with steel round shields and spears. Even their horses were clad in armor. Under the moonlight, the tips of the spears glowed with a white luster, as if they were made of refined white diamonds. The spears pierced into the bodies of the armor demons one after another. However, the armor demons had strong vitality. Unless their throats, hearts, or other vital organs were pierced, they wouldn't die. It didn't matter if the spears pierced their lungs or legs. The armor demons immediately pulled their spears off their horses and chopped them in half with a swing of their battle axes. The Divine Might Battalion quickly clashed with the armor demons. Although they didn't gain any advantage, they at least reduced the pressure on Su Yu's army. In the dark of the night, Zheng Yifan's aged face looked very weathered. He held the reins of his horse and slowly moved forward. Beside him, Sikong Nan, Gong Sun, and the other generals were guarding him. This old subject, Zheng Yifan, is late to the rescue. Zheng Yifan cupped his fists towards Qin Yin from afar with the crowd of armor demons between them. His attitude was extremely respectful. But how could Qin Yin say anything to him? Qi Ji's attacks became fiercer and fiercer, leaving Qin Yin with no way to defend herself. Every time she condensed her god-binding chains, it would be shattered. Her injuries piled on top of her injuries, and blood was already flowing from the corner of her mouth. Su Yu raised her sword and fought the armor demons in close combat. Her face was ashen. Divine Marquis, is this the only reinforcement you have? It's not enough. Xing Yifan smiled. Don't worry, Commander Suyu. The reinforcements will be here soon. Huh? He was confused. Bang. After shattering Qin Yin's sacred dragon shield once more, Qi Ji's arrogance intensified. He laughed heartily and said, "Is this all the human's strongest martial soul the god-binding chains has? How weak. In my opinion, this god-binding chain is just a leash for horses and dogs. What's so special about it?" Right at this moment, a ray of golden light suddenly illuminated the heavens and the earth, and then a voice that sounded like an oracle descended from the sky. Who said that my Qin clan's god-binding shackles are a rope used to tie horses and dogs? There was a silhouette in the sky. It was an old man in a black robe. He stood in the void and his body was surrounded by the god-binding shackles. Although his face was old, his spirit was hale and hearty. He suddenly descended from the sky and opened his palm. The mighty god-binding shackles pierced down from the sky like a sharp sword. In an instant his body disappeared. A crack in the void opened dozens of meters away from the ground. His figure flashed and the light of the god-binding shackles blasted directly on Qi Ji's master devil force Gang Qi. Boom. With just one strike, Qi Ji spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. His face was pale and his eyes were cold. God. The newcomer landed beside Qin Yin steadily. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he said, "Are you the one who said that the Qin clan's god-binding chains are trash?" I. Qi Ji gritted his teeth and suddenly shouted in a low voice, "Armor demons, kill him for me." A group of armor demons immediately flapped their wings and flew up, pouncing directly on this god realm expert. But he just smiled and suddenly raised an arm. The mighty god force condensed on his arm and suddenly blasted out. In the air, a martial spirit of a soaring sword was condensed. Boom. Hundreds of armor demons were instantly turned into dust. How powerful was this? Qin Yin was dumbfounded. You are. The old man turned to look at her with a face full of love. He said, "Little girl, I am your ancestor. My name is Qin Han, the 237th emperor of the Qin Empire." Qin Han. Qin Yin was dumbfounded. She had heard this name before. But according to the historical records, didn't you already ascend to the heaven realm? How could the historian know my whereabouts? I have been cultivating in the far north snow region. You're Qin Yin, right? Yes. Qin Yin said respectfully. Qin Yin greets ancestor. Qin Han smiled slightly. You are welcome. If Zheng Yifan did not find me, I would not know that the world has changed to such an extent. The Iha nation rebelled and the demon race invaded. Qin Yin said urgently. Ancestor, save Xiaoxi and Lord Chu Chu first. Not far away, Chu Chu was already exhausted from the encirclement of 3 5-star Devil Sect disciples, while Tang Xiaoxi was evenly matched with another 5-star Devil Sect disciple, and it was impossible to determine the victor for a while. Qila. A ripple spread in the air. It was the trace of space tearing. The next moment Qin Han was already hundreds of meters away in the sky. Golden god-binding chains danced in his hands and bound Elder Jin Huang's body. 12 god-binding chains surrounded him tightly. Jin Huang gritted his teeth and shouted, "You are just a lower celestial. Even if you kill me, the Demon King will avenge me." The Golden Brilliance Valley used all of his strength to resist Qin Han's god-binding chains. Qin Han stood majestically in the wind. His aged face was filled with anger. He spread his fingers and slowly closed them, causing the god-binding chains to penetrate into Jin Huang's skin and muscles. Ah! Jin Huang kept screaming. His sea of qi was about to explode. His eyes were completely shrouded in blood-red light. The demon race was arrogant. That was why they called themselves the celestial race. Even if they met a real god, they would not surrender. Bang! Jin Huang's body suddenly exploded, turning into a rain of blood. Qin Han's eyes were cold. His forehead was dripping with sweat. He waved his sleeves and once again pierced through the plain. He held a golden sword in his right hand and slashed at the other 5-star demon grandmaster, Zhou Tan. Zhou Tan's arms shook. His fighting spirit was high. He roused the demon force in his body and roared, "Qi Ji Shenmi Lanfu, leave quickly. I will hold him back. You must avenge me and Jin Huang." The long sword martial spirit splashed into stars. One of Zhou Tan's arms fell to the ground. He stood in the chaos with blood flowing. He looked up at Qin Han and suddenly laughed. Old thing, you shouldn't have come out again. Do you know that? This will only bring about your death. Qin Han gritted his teeth and said, You shameless scum who call yourselves the celestial race. You killed my people and seized my land. Today I came out to wipe out your so-called celestial race. The domain of a god realm expert spread out. Immediately, Qin Yin, Chu Chu, Tang Xiaoxi, Qin Yan and the others were forced to retreat. The ground cracked inch by inch. Qin Han looked at Zhou Tan indifferently. The domain pressure pressed on his sea of qi. Zhou Tan stood in the same place with blood flowing. He could only forcefully use the Grandmaster Devil Force to generate pressure to resist the opponent. But how could Zhou Tan be a match for a divine venerable? In the blink of an eye, all the blood vessels in his body burst one after another. Puff puff puff, blood splattered. His sea of qi also slowly cracked. The last of his life force disappeared. Plop. Zhou Tan slowly knelt on the ground and fell. His life force turned into a demonic spirit bead and floated above his corpse. Tang Xiaoxi walked forward and collected Zhou Tan's and Jin Huang's demonic spirit bead. She handed it to Qin Yin and secretly laughed. Wow, Xiao Yin, this ancestor of yours is really powerful. And yes. Qin Yin was also excited, but Zhang Wei and Chu Chu obviously had some doubts on their faces. Zheng Yifan appeared at this time and invited a divine venerable from the Qin family with dual martial spirits to come out. What was his intention? Qin Han's appearance might not be the fortune of the empire. It might bring about another disaster, right? Qi Ji ordered the troops to retreat. The armored demons also retreated. This battle was very tragic. The Muyu city army suffered heavy losses. Therefore Suyu did not order the pursuit. If the devil race wanted to leave, let them go. After all, even if they pursued, they might not be able to gain any benefits. After consecutively injuring a 5-star devil grandmaster and killing 2 5-star devil grandmasters, Qin Han's condition was not very good. His face was pale and full of sweat. It should be the result of overconsumption of divine power. Qin Yin walked forward and bowed respectfully. She said, Ancestor, why don't you go back to Ji County and rest for a while? Qin Han's cold gaze softened when he saw his descendant Qin Yin. He smiled and said, Little girl, I followed Zheng Yifan all the way here from the snowy region. I haven't eaten anything good in a long time. Can you treat your ancestor to a good meal? Qin Yin could not help but smile. I and Xiaoxi just ate not long ago. If ancestor doesn't mind, please add a pair of chopsticks. I don't mind. Qin Han stroked his beard and smiled. I haven't eaten the Empire's food for a long time. Qin Yin looked at Suyu and asked with concern, Aunt Lon, are you all right? Suyu smiled. I'm fine. Your Highness, accompany ancestor to eat. This subordinate will come and clean up the battlefield. And thank you, Aunt Lon. After returning to the magistrate office, Qin Han and Zheng Yifan sat down with wine glasses and chopsticks. There were now 5 people at the table. Without saying a word, he filled his cup and drank a cup. This must be Fire Cauldron Chu Chu, right? Qin Han looked at him. Your humble servant Chu Chu greets. Emperor Qin Han. Chu Chu said respectfully. Qin Han smiled. No need to stand on ceremony. I heard that you have been protecting Xiao Yin all this time. Thank you for your hard work. It is my honor to serve your highness. Chu Chu cupped his fists and a trace of doubt flashed through his eyes. He said, Emperor, as the saying goes, a country cannot have 2 monarchs. I wonder if you... Qin Han's eyes lit up and he couldn't help but smile. He stroked his beard and said, Don't worry, Lord Chu Chu. If I, Qin Han, was greedy for power in the human world, why would I give up my position to cultivate? I only came out after hearing that the empire had fallen. I will ascend to the heavenly realm after wiping out the rebels of Iha country and the demons. The monarch of this empire will still be Xiao Yin, my granddaughter Xianxia. Qin Yin was speechless. Ancestor, this seniority is a bit unclear. Ah, that's not important. Qin Han said casually. In short, I have already treated you, Xiao Yin, as my granddaughter. You can call me ancestor or grandfather. It's up to you. I remember there is a heart-nurturing pavilion behind Zetian Palace. I will stay there after returning to Longyan City. Call me if you need anything. Don't bother me with those trivial matters. Chu also smiled. I think your highness will definitely agree. Qin Yin smiled sweetly. Then, call me ancestor. Otherwise the seniority will be messed up. As you wish. At this moment, Qin Yin looked at Zhen Yifan and bowed respectfully. Jinho, thank you. Zhen Yifan was also stunned. He quickly left his seat and knelt down respectfully. Zheng Yifan greets your highness. At the side, Qin Han only cared about eating. In the blink of an eye he had finished a bowl of muntjac meat. Tang Xiaoxi was dumbfounded. A god-level master was indeed powerful at the dining table. Chapter 446. On the 2nd of May, Qin Yin personally led 300,000 troops out of Tianshu province and arrived at Wugu city. Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing led Chu Yao, Wei Chou, Situ Sin, Su Jiantao and 5,000 troops on the official road to welcome the empress. When the empress's carriage arrived, Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing stepped forward, dismounted and cupped their fists. I, Lin Muyu/Feng Jixing, pay my respects to your highness. Qin Yin had a charming smile on his face, jumped off his horse and helped them up. Brother Yu, General Feng, both of you have worked hard. Both of you have contributed greatly in the battle at Wildfire Plains. When Xiao Yin returns to Lanyan City, I will reward both of you handsomely. Thank you, your highness. Lin Muyu raised his head and saw Zheng Yifan in the crowd. He couldn't help but frown. Zheng Yifan. Zheng Yifan urged his horse forward and said, Zheng Yifan pays my respects to Commander Yu. Commander Yu beat the demon army at their own game on Daojiang River. It was truly ingenious. I am very impressed. Lin Muyu didn't say much. He respectfully came in front of the supreme divinity Qin Han and said, I am Xiao Yin's sworn brother Lin Muyu, pay my respects to the ancestor. Qin Han looked at him with a smile and said, Lin Muyu, I heard that you also have god-binding chains? Release them. Let me see if your god-binding chains are pure and if they're just for show. Yes. Lin Muyu took a step back and shouted. Immediately, 9 god-binding chains stood up around him and shone brightly. Qin Han was slightly startled. You have already stepped into the Saint region at such a young age. It seems that the Empire is indeed full of talents. Good lad, the power of the god-binding chains has been unleashed to the extreme by you. I am really impressed. What he meant by bringing it to its limits should be that each layer of the god-binding shackles had its own special ability. Lin Muyu withdrew her power and the golden martial spirit entered her body. She said respectfully, Thank you for your praise, ancestor. As Qin Han rode past, he gently placed his hand on Lin Muyu's shoulder and smiled. You're Xiao Yin's brother, so you're also my descendant. You don't have to be so polite. Let's enter the city. Thank you, ancestor. Lin Muyu turned around and looked at Qin Han's back in a daze. This supreme divinity didn't put on any airs at all, which was completely different from Luo Lan's arrogant aura. Even Lin Muyu's spiritual pulse technique couldn't sense the powerful aura and hostility from Qin Han. Could it be that everything was fake? At this moment, Tang Xiaoxi and Chu came forward to talk about their parting feelings. Tang Xiaoxi immediately returned the 40,000 troops of the Longdan army camp to Lin Muyu. Although the battle was fierce, the Longdan army camp's troops were well preserved. The number of casualties was less than 5,000, which could be said to be a miracle. The Divine Might Battalion, which was led by Zhen Yifan, was stationed outside the city. In reality, all the military forces in the Five Valleys city were single-handedly arranged by Lin Muyu. It was impossible for him to allow the Divine Might Battalion to enter the city. Unknowingly, Zhen Yifan and Lin Muyu were walking side by side. Beside them was Zhen Feng, who had his hand on the hilt of his sword. After not seeing each other for a long time, Zhen Feng had also changed from that ignorant and frivolous youth to a much more mature and steady person. His face had lost some of its wildness, but had gained some weather-beaten calmness. I wonder where the divine overlords have been all these years? Lin Muyu asked. Zheng Yifan said faintly, they lived in seclusion in the northern jungle of Tianshu province. I only received news of the fall of Lanyan City more than a month later, so I didn't lead the Xunwei battalion out of the mountains. After that, I was instructed by an expert to go to the wild snow region in the north alone. After nearly 2 years, I finally found Emperor Qin Han, who was cultivating in seclusion. So, I returned to the empire with Emperor Qin Han to serve the empress. Lin Muyu was silent. She looked at the retreating road under the hooves of the horses and didn't know what to say. Zheng Yifan sighed and said, His Majesty Qin Jin was benevolent all his life, but in the end he died in the hands of his own brother. It's sad and lamentable. I, Zheng Yifan, have lived a sad life too. I only wanted to fight for the glory of my clan, but in the end I was suspected by His Majesty. I had no choice but to leave Longyan City. I originally planned to die of old age in the mountains, but I didn't expect the incident of Iha Nation to happen again. As he spoke, Zheng Yifan looked at Lin Muyu and said, Commander Yu, when the former emperor was still alive, I made things difficult for you. Do you still hate me? Lin Muyu shook her head and smiled bitterly. The empire has changed drastically and the world has changed. How can I still hate you? Divine Overlord, you and I were once sworn enemies. Later, Brother Chu Huayin even destroyed Zheng Feng's Sea of Qi. Do you hate me? Zheng Yifan was stunned. Zheng Feng looked at Lin Muyu, and his eyes continued to show the vicissitudes of life. He said, Sister and Chu Huayin died together in Longyan City. What else do I hate? Lin Muyu, you don't have to worry. This time my father and I returned to Longyan City just to support the empire. We won't make things difficult for anyone. That's good. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, May we be of one heart and one mind and support the empire of the Qin Empire in the future. Zheng Yifan and Zheng Feng cupped their fists together. Lin Muyu sighed inwardly. Nothing was absolute in the world. Time could wash away longing and worry, but it could also wash away hatred and pain. In the face of the passage of time, no one could be as unyielding as before. On the 14th of May, Su Yu, Xiang Yu, Lin Muyu, and Feng Jixing led 4 groups of people to drive the remnants of the demon army out of the empire's territory. They recovered the steel protective wall and repaired it. On the 29th of May, they returned to the imperial capital and were welcomed by the citizens. The next day, Zetian Palace Hall. Qin Han went to Yangxin Pavilion to meditate and cultivate. Just as he said he wouldn't interfere in any court affairs. With Zheng Yifan's return, the situation of Tang Lan and Su Muyun monopolizing the power was directly impacted. In terms of military strength, Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi had more than 200,000 soldiers. Feng Jixing's imperial guards also had more than 50,000 soldiers. This also meant that Qin Yin's side had nearly 300,000 soldiers. After the Battle of the Steel Protective Wall, the total number of soldiers in Qihai Province and Yunzhong Province was only about 200,000. Both sides were almost equal. This was the first time Qin Yin felt that she had power in her hands. This was the first time she felt that she was a real empress. Qin Yin slowly sat on the throne. Her milky white maiden's robe outlined her perfect figure. She looked at Her Highness Lin Muyu gently and smiled. Lin Muyu also looked at her with love and longing in her eyes. Feng Jixing coughed. Don't be like this. What's with this kind of eye contact? Lin Muyu was slightly embarrassed. She lowered her head and touched her nose. Qin Yin's cultivation was about to step into the saint level. Her 5 senses were extraordinarily strong. Naturally, she could hear Feng Jixing's whispers. Instantly her cheeks flushed red. She was incomparably beautiful. She said, Jingyue, read the imperial edict. Yes. The empress's chief female official, a woman called Shengguan Jingyue, walked forward. She held the golden imperial edict in her hand and said in a clear voice, In this decisive battle with the demon race, all the generals were loyal to their duties. They were fearless in the face of the powerful demon race army. It is gratifying. The commander of the Longdan army camp, Lin Muyu, saw through Sherman's tricks and seized the Five Valley City in a time of crisis. She also set up a brilliant plan to drown the demon race army in the wildfire plain and beheaded more than 60,000 armored demons. This is the greatest merit in this battle. She is specially awarded a golden order and is conferred the title of Marquis Yunling. She will be given the Five Valley City. The commander of the imperial army, Feng Jixing, set up the Qiankuan battle formation in the Unicorn Forest and killed more than 20,000 armored demons. She also assisted Lin Muyu in drowning the demon race army. She is specially awarded a golden order and is conferred the title of Marquis Yunzhong. She will be given the Divine Shadow City. Marquis Shenwei Zheng Yifan has protected the country. He will be reinstated and promoted to a rank 1 general. He will be reorganized and recruit the Shenwei battalion. He will be established as the Shenwei army and will be responsible for guarding the northern border. The rest of the generals will be rewarded according to their contributions. Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and Zheng Yifan stepped forward together and cupped their fists to express their gratitude. This battle had actually created 2 marquises for the empire. At this time, Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing's titles and military positions were already on the same level as Zheng Yifan's. This was enough to show how much Qin Yin relied on them. On the contrary, none of the generals from Muyu City and Qihai City were conferred titles. Even Xiang Yu, who had made a lot of contributions, didn't receive any conferment. This inevitably made the 2 Grand Dukes somewhat unhappy. However, both Tang Lan and Su Muyun didn't say anything. They were well aware that the current Lanyan city had changed. Not only did Qin Yin have the support of Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and Zheng Yifan, but she also had the backing of the Divine Lord Qin Han. Qin Han was an otherworldly expert who didn't covet power. He doted on Qin Yin as if she was his own granddaughter. At this time, whoever dared to challenge the Empress would only be looking for trouble. Moreover, after this battle, both Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing had their own fiefdoms. This further demonstrated Qin Yin's determination. After the court meeting was dismissed, Qin Yin asked Su Muyun to stay. There were only the 2 of them in the huge hall. Qin Yin walked down the steps and held Su Muyun's arm. She smiled and said, "Grandfather, don't be angry." During the decisive battle between the Steel Wall and the demons, the Muyu City's Iron Blade Army and Zither Dragon Army were very brave. I saw it with my own eyes. It's just that Brother Yu and General Feng made great contributions, so Xiao Yin conferred them the title of Marquis. Su Muyun raised his hand and gently rubbed Qin Yin's delicate face with the back of his hand. He said, "Grandfather, Xiao Yin has grown up. I'm really happy for you." However, Divine Shadow City is the provincial capital of Tianshu Province. It was originally guarded by Su Long. I'm afraid that the morale of the Muyu City's army will change when Xiao Yin gives Divine Shadow City to Feng Jixing as his territory. That's why I need Grandfather to say a few words on behalf of Xiao Yin. After all, Su Long is Grandfather's general. Qin Yin blinked and said, "General Feng is good at war and has contributed greatly to the empire. He's incomparably loyal and brave. Grandfather has also seen it." Xiao Yin conferred Divine Shadow City to him to appease the people. "I know." Su Muyun thought for a moment and said, "Grandfather will return Divine Shadow City to Xiao Yin. After all, Xiao Yin has grown up. After I go back, I'll write a letter to Su Long and order him to lead the army out of Divine Shadow City. I'll give the city to Feng Jixing. Good grandfather is the best." Chapter 447. Early in the morning, the lazy rays of the sun shone on the clean bedsheets. Lin Muyu slowly woke up from her dreams. She had slept soundly that night. After fighting with the demon race for almost a year, Lin Muyu had been constantly on the move and rarely had a chance to rest. She had never had the chance to have a good sleep like this. Dong dong. A guard's voice came from outside. "Chief Attendant Commander Feng Jixing of Yunzhong Marquis requests an audience." "Yes, I understand. Let him in." "Yes." He hurriedly got up, put on a dark blue imperial uniform and washed his face with water. While he was brushing his teeth, Feng Jixing had already pushed open the door and entered. Seeing the mountain of files on the chief attendant's desk, Feng Jixing couldn't help but laugh. "Sigh. Are you is fighting outside and dealing with these trivial matters inside? It's too tiring." Lin Muyu asked while brushing his teeth. "Big brother Feng must have something important to talk to me about so early in the morning, right?" "Yes, let's talk after you're done washing up." "Okay." After washing up, he put on the white royal forest armor and tucked the helmet under his armpit, smiling. "Okay, you can talk now. I'll bring you to see 2 people." "Oh? Who?" "You'll know when we get there." "Okay." They didn't even have the time to eat breakfast. The 2 young marquises of the empire rode their horses straight to Tongtian Street under the morning sun, all the way to the residence where the imperial army camp was located. Feng Jixing led him straight in, and a group of imperial soldiers respectfully knelt on one knee. "Greetings, Commander Feng, Commander Yu." In the depths of the compound, a group of imperial army soldiers stood guard, led by Zhang Wei himself. Beside him stood Luo Yu. "Luo Yu?" Lin Muyu was pleasantly surprised. "You're all right? I thought you had died under the steel wall." Luo Yu smiled and cupped his fists. "Thanks to Commander's blessings, this subordinate didn't die and even brought back 2 very important people of the demon race." "Go in there inside." All right. Feng Jixing pushed open the door and walked in with Lin Muyu. Under the sunlight, the two girls with their hands tied were sitting side by side on a chair. They looked up at the two people who had just walked in, and their purple eyes were filled with panic and anger. Their mouths were stuffed with cloth and they couldn't speak. They looked like they were in great pain. These two people are demons? Lin Muyu was stunned. She could already feel the power of the demon race from these two girls. Yes. Feng Jixing nodded and said, when the steel wall was about to break, I knew that we couldn't hold on for much longer, so I sent Luo Yu to lead 3,000 cavalrymen on a naval warship to take a roundabout route to the rear of the demon race to ambush their provisions camp. I didn't think that there would be such an unexpected harvest. These two are the daughters of the demon race's demon emperor, eldest Princess Feng Jing-er and little Princess Feng Ning. What do you think? Royal members of the demon race aren't bad-looking, right? Luo Yu took them and wandered around the unicorn forest for nearly half a month, and only returned to Lanyan City after learning that the demon race had been defeated. Lin Muyu's gaze swept over them and she couldn't help but smile. Feng Jing-er and Feng Ning-er's appearance could indeed be considered at the level of devastation, but the hostility in their eyes was slightly stronger, especially Feng Jing-er. Her purple eyes were filled with resentment, as if she would immediately kill Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing the moment the ropes were untied. Stepping forward, Lin Muyu reached out to pull the cloth out of the two demon race princesses' mouths, and was immediately greeted with a torrent of curses from Feng Jing. You despicable humans, using such a despicable method to bring us to this place. Just you wait, Father Emperor will definitely send troops to attack you and kill all of you inferior creatures. Marshal Qian Feng and Marshal Lei Chong won't let you go. Just you wait and see. You ugly lowly race. At the side, Feng Ninger's gaze was much gentler and she said in a small voice, Sister, don't say any more, they really will kill us. Did you forget how vicious they were when they killed the guards? Don't argue. Feng Jixing walked forward, one hand holding Lin Muyu's shoulder and pointed at her handsome face as he asked, touch your conscience and speak, is this kind of appearance considered ugly in your demon race? Isn't he much more handsome than that idiot Lei Chong? Incomparably ugly. Feng Jing-er said angrily. Feng Ning's voice became slightly softer. Sister, actually this general, in our god race, his appearance is already considered first class. He is not inferior to Marshal Qian Feng. Feng Jing-er gritted her teeth. Ning-er, how can you speak for them? This kind of person is obviously a pretty boy. How can he be compared to a hero like Marshal Qian Feng? Feng Jixing smiled faintly and said, Your Highness Jing-er, the general next to me is called Lin Muyu, the commander of the 50,000 troops in the Longdan army camp of the Empire. It was also him who drowned the 60,000 armored demons in the wildfire field, and defeated Qian Feng and made him flee in panic. Why? Do you think he is a pretty boy and is not worthy to be compared to Qian Feng? Feng Jing-er was stunned and a trace of coldness flashed through her eyes. She looked at Lin Muyu and said, It's you? You defeated Marshal Qian Feng? Lin Muyu didn't deny it and said respectfully, Lin Muyu greets Your Highness Jing. Since Your Highness is now a prisoner of the Qin Empire, please control your temper. This is good for both of us. Don't talk about you like that. Feng Jixing grinned and raised his voice. You see, Big Brother Feng is still single. These two demon race princesses' looks and figures are also top-notch. Why don't we split them? The gentle little princess Feng Ning-er will be yours. As for me, I'll suffer a loss. This fiery and passionate Feng Jing-er, I'll take it. Feng Jing-er panicked. You, Feng Jixing, you are the commander of the army of the human empire. You can't do such a dirty thing. Don't touch me. Feng Jixing put his hand on the hilt of his sword and smiled. Your Highness, don't panic. I will be very gentle. Lin Muyu smiled and crossed her arms in front of her chest, watching the show. Feng Jing-er was really panicking. Tears swirled in her eyes. Growing up in the capital of the demon clan, she had never seen such a scene. Moreover, it seemed that Feng Jixing was very serious. Feng Ning-er, on the other hand, was much calmer. Her beautiful eyes were covered with a layer of mist as she mumbled, Sister, she already has someone she likes. 4 years ago she was engaged to Marshal Qian Feng. Don't force her. If that's the case, let me Feng Ning-er marry this Commander Lin Muyu. Don't make things difficult for Sister. Lin Muyu touched his nose. What a righteous Feng Ning. Feng Ning-er looked up at him and said, Commander Yu, as long as you don't mind. Ninger is willing to do anything for you. But Sister Shi, please let her go. Let her be with the person she loves. If Marshal Qianfeng loses her, he will be in so much pain that he will want to die. Lin Muyu said, if Qianfeng kills himself because of losing Feng Jing'er, it will be the fortune of the empire and the human race. Feng Jixing laughed and didn't comment. Seeing Feng Ninger's tears fall like rain, Lin Muyu couldn't bear to see her kneeling on the ground. Your Highness Ninger, don't cry. Big Brother Feng and I are human generals. We are not demons. We won't kill the innocent outside of war. We invited you and your Highness Ninger here as a bargaining chip. Please understand. Feng Jixing also became serious. Your Highnesses, Feng Jixing is not the kind of person to take advantage of others. I only said those words to remind you to control your temper. Although you are the princesses of the demon race, the Empire has declared war on the demon race. The princesses of the enemy country can only be hostages and no longer have any special rights. I hope you understand. I understand. Feng Ning's tears rolled down her chin. What does the Qin Empire want to use me and sister for? I haven't thought about it yet. Feng Jixing thought for a moment and said, but I think. Your Highnesses are the apple of the Demon King's eye. There shouldn't be a problem if we use you two in exchange for Lingdong province. Feng Ninger started. You want to threaten father? What's wrong with that? Feng Jixing's eyes were cold as he pressed his hand on the hilt of his blade. Don't forget, your father wants to destroy us humans. If such a strong enemy was in front of me, I wouldn't hesitate to cut off his head. Feng Ninger was furious and looked like she was about to explode again. Feng Ninger hurriedly stopped her. Sister, don't say any more. As she spoke, Feng Ninger looked up at Lin Muyu. Commander Yu, you and General Feng are both famed generals of the Empire. I hope you can keep your promise and treat me and sister with respect. Don't worry. Lin Muyu said lightly. If you stay in Lanyan City, no one will do anything to you. Your Highnesses eat well and live well. Just wait for our news. Thank you, Commander Yu. Lin Muyu nodded and looked at Feng Jixing, saying, Brother Feng, come with me. Outside the door, Lin Muyu frowned and said, these two people are hot potatoes. The Demon King must be very worried. If there are no accidents, he will send peerless masters to Lanyan City to rescue them. He might even come in person. The Demon King. This name sounds very powerful. Lanyan City has a population of millions. It's easy for spies to sneak in. If someone really wants to rescue Feng Ninger and Feng Jing'er, I'm afraid we won't be able to stop them. I know. Feng Jixing smiled slightly. Don't worry. We will send people to negotiate with the Demon King as soon as possible. We will discuss the bargaining chips and conditions. Moreover, it's useless to change back to Lingdong province. Lin Muyu said worriedly. After all, Lingdong province is barren. Without the protection of steel walls and paddy rivers, the Demon King can easily take it back. Even if we take back Lingdong province now, it's just a piece of chicken ribs. Well, we'll talk about this in the afternoon at the meeting of Zetian Palace. Okay. Chapter 448. In the afternoon, the lazy sunlight fell into the Zetian Palace, reflecting the shadows of the stone pillars engraved with dragon patterns. There were only a few dozen people in the palace, but they were all important ministers of the empire. Qin Yin seemed to have just finished cultivating. She was wearing a dark blue soft armor, but even so her mature figure could not hide the leather armor. Her beautiful face was extremely enchanting. Her eyebrows were thin and curved, and her small nose was slightly upturned. Her face was as white as jade, and her complexion was as beautiful as the morning sun. On her chest, there was a golden purple flower emblem that shone with a moving light. She sat quietly on the throne and said, I heard that Commander Feng's subordinates have captured 2 demon race princesses? Yes. Feng Jixing cupped his fist and said, yes, they are the Demon King's 2 beloved daughters, the first princess Feng Jing'er and the little princess Feng Ning. According to the 2 high-level demon captives, these 2 princesses are the Demon King's most beloved children. Qin Yin was slightly happy. That's great. On the side, Su Muyun cupped his fist and said, Your Highness, the Empire has just gone through a war and needs to recuperate for a period of time. Moreover, the repair of the steel wall and the river of Daojiang Basin also need some time. These 2 demon princesses came at the right time. This old minister suggests that we use them to negotiate with the demon race and gain some breathing space for the empire. Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. Qin Yin nodded and smiled. Zheng Yifan squinted his eyes and said respectfully, Your Highness, this old minister suggests that if we negotiate, we only return one of the princesses and keep the other one. This way we can always have a hostage in our hands. If the demon race gets angry and forcefully attacks, then we can use the advantage of the steel wall to defeat them for a while. Then the demon race can probably go down in the west. This general concurs. Feng Jixing cupped his fist and said, The demon race has 2 big legions. The total number of armor demons is about 400,000. Over the past year there have been many battles on Daojiang Basin. Moreover, the demon race attacked the Iha kingdom in Lingnan and fought with Long Qianlin's army. They also suffered heavy losses. Then, Commander, you killed 60,000 of them in the wildfire. The number of armor demons has been reduced from 400,000 to about 150,000. The current demon race is no longer as tyrannical as they were a year ago. Yes. Qin Yin smiled and said, General Feng said it well. Sirs, who do you think we should send to negotiate with the devil race? It must be someone who knows how to speak, Tang Lan said. Zhen Yifan cupped his fists. This old subject is willing to go to the devil race with my silver tongue. Qin Yin was taken aback. The divine marquis has just returned to Lanyan City and is an important minister of the empire. He can't be in danger. I'm just a bag of old bones. I don't know how much more I can do for the empire. Zheng Yifan let out a sigh. His face was filled with the vicissitudes of life as he said, I, Zheng Yifan, have been loyal to the empire all my life. I wanted to make a great contribution so that I wouldn't bring disgrace to my name as a member of the Soaring Clouds Pavilion. Unfortunately, the late emperor didn't trust me. This old subject has returned to the empire now, hoping that I can do my best for your highness before I die. Lin Muyu looked at Zheng Yifan. At this moment, Zheng Yifan was no longer the arrogant and domineering divine marquis. He was just an old man. Suddenly Lin Muyu thought that he might just be Zheng Xiang's father, the father of the person Chu Huayin loved. Thus, Lin Muyu said respectfully, Your Highness, I think that the divine marquis can go to the devil race. Whether it's prestige or strength, it's fine. Feng Jixing raised his head. Yes, I think so too. Qin Yin smiled. Then I'll have to trouble the divine marquis to go to Winterfrost City. Yes, this old subject will not disappoint you. It wasn't until dusk when many matters of the empire, big and small, were discussed. In fact, many of the matters were handled by the civil officials. Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, Wei Chou, Situ Sin and the other generals were drowsy. They glanced into the distance and saw the Marquis of Pingnan, Xiang Yu, standing there calmly with his head lowered. He was actually snoring softly. He's indeed the descendant of Xiang Wentian. Citizen grinned. Lin Muyu also held back her laughter. At this moment the female official Shangguan Jingyue announced the end of the meeting. She walked straight forward and said with a smile, Marquis of Yunling, Her Highness invites you to stay and discuss matters in the rear hall. Yes. Feng Jixing and the others naturally knew that the Empress had summoned Lin Muyu alone because of some matters related to romance. They touched their noses resentfully and agreed to go for a drink. In the blink of an eye, only Lin Muyu and Qin Yin were left in the main hall. Qin Yin smiled as she walked down the steps. She held Lin Muyu's hand and said, Let's go. The ancestors have been waiting for us for a long time. We are going to see the ancestors? Yes. Qin Yin smiled with her dimples and said, Recently I have been following Sir Chu Chu to practice the Dragon Slayer technique. The ancestors have been guiding my cultivation. Soon Xiao Yin will definitely be able to step into the Saint Domain. The Saint Domain could preserve one's youthful appearance. This was a realm that all female practitioners had been dreaming of for a long time. It was to preserve one's appearance in their most beautiful years. Even though Qin Yin was the Empress, she was no exception. The heart-nurturing pavilion was located in the depths of the Zetian Palace Hall. It was the place where the emperors used to cultivate. The heart-nurturing pavilion wasn't big and was just a small pavilion. It had been burned down during the massacre of the Iha country. The heart-nurturing pavilion was rebuilt and even the blue paint was newly painted. Creak. Qin Yin gently pushed the door open. The setting sun shone into the pavilion. In the distance, Qin Han was sitting on a rattan chair. Divine power revolved around his body. He smiled and said, "You're here?" Qin Yin nodded and smiled. There were a lot of matters to discuss in the afternoon. Sorry for making the ancestors wait. It's all right. Come here. When Lin Muyu and Qin Yin came closer, Qin Han slowly stood up. His eyes were shining brightly. He said, "Since ancient times there weren't many people who possessed dual martial souls. But your dual martial souls are both first-class martial souls. It's really precious. The ancestors have nothing else to teach you. I only have one question. Do you know anything about martial soul fusion?" Martial soul fusion? Lin Muyu was stunned. She shook her head blankly. "Ancestor, I don't know anything." "I knew it." Qin Han slowly walked forward and said, "Come, I'll let you have a look." Then Qin Han shouted. Buzz. 12 god-binding chains broke out of his body. They glowed with a golden light. He then opened one hand and said, "Bahuang's sword, come out." The wind whirled and the divine power flowed rapidly. A golden sword slowly emerged from Qin Han's palm. He said leisurely, "This is my other martial soul, the first-class Bahuang sword." It awakened in his body the moment he stepped into the divine realm. Now, carefully feel the changes in the power of the two martial souls during the fusion process. "Yes, ancestor." Qin Han muttered. The god-binding chains began to circle around the Bahuang sword. The golden chains broke down inch by inch and seeped into the Bahuang sword. The Bahuang sword became even more dazzling. When the 12 god-binding chains turned into golden runes and flew around the Bahuang sword, the light almost rushed out of the pavilion. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. With the spirit meridian art, he could clearly feel that when the god-binding chains merged with the 8 desolation sword, the superposition of strength was not 11 is equal to 2, but it was a geometric increase. The 8 desolation sword that had merged with the god-binding chain Xian energy had increased its strength by at least 5 times. "Did you see it?" Qin Han had a faint smile on his face. He shook his palm and the Bahuang sword quickly entered his body. Lin Muyu nodded heavily. "I saw it. Martial souls can be fused like this. It's amazing. Ancestor, with your ability, can you kill Luo Lan?" "Bulon." Qin Han couldn't help but laugh. "With my martial soul fusion, I'm afraid Luo Lan can't even take 10 moves from me." Qin Yin immediately knelt and said, "If that's the case, ancestor, please go to the Lingnan 7-World Palace and kill Luo Lan." Oh. Qin Han took a deep breath and murmured, "Although I'm just a god from the lower realm, I have to abide by the laws of the heaven realm. Other than the battle of the god realm, any fight between gods is against the laws. I will be hunted down by the gods in the heaven realm." Battle of the god realm? That's right. The most recent battle of the god realm was 200 years ago. Emperor Qin Yi led the truth of the gods to the lower realm to hunt down the 7 luminaries demon emperor. Unfortunately, Qin Han shook his head and smiled. He failed. Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Qin Han looked at him with a smile. "Kid, there's no need to be nervous. Although I can sense the 7 luminaries mystic force of the 7 luminaries demon monarch in your body, you're a righteous person. You won't kill innocent people like the 7 luminaries demon monarch did. I've spent hundreds of years to learn the basics of martial soul fusion. I'll teach you if you're willing to learn it. After all, Xiaoyin still needs your strength to protect her kingdom." "Thank you, ancestor." Lin Muyu said gratefully. "Don't say so much. Sit down cross-legged. I will teach you martial soul fusion while teaching Xiaoyin how to cultivate the god-binding chains." "Yes." Lin Muyu and Qin Yin sat side by side and slowly released their martial souls. Battle energy swirled around them. Just as Qin Han said, he could actually multitask. While teaching Lin Muyu martial soul fusion, he was also teaching Qin Yin how to increase the power of the god-binding chains. Martial soul fusion was divided into 4 realms. Stopping war. Cultivate in the Sea of Will, controlling 2 martial souls at the same time. Moreover, the martial souls do not conflict with each other. Origin. Cultivate the origin of the martial soul, making the 2 martial souls more familiar with each other. Fusion. Break down the 2 martial souls and fuse them into one. Obviously, Lin Muyu's martial soul cultivation was still far from that. Qin Han said that in the last battle of the divine realm, an expert at the 2nd level of the divine state fell into the mortal world and fought with him for 2 days and 2 nights in the snow region. In the end, he was killed by Qin Han. Dual martial souls naturally had an absolute advantage. As long as their martial soul fusion was strong, they could challenge those of a higher level. Battles between gods were not absolute. The first realm of martial soul fusion stopping war was concise and comprehensive. The two martial souls must not conflict with each other when operating in the sea of mind. Otherwise, the cultivation would not be considered complete. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin closed their eyes and quietly operated their martial arts. On the other hand, Qin Han sat on a chair and watched the two juniors cultivate. His eyes could not hide the kindness and love he had for them. This expert, who was known as the #1 genius of the empire for thousands of years, actually felt incomparably lonely after cultivating for thousands of years. He had encountered a huge obstacle on the road of cultivation. He could not be as heartless as the 7 luminaries demon emperor. Therefore he could only rely on the familial love his two juniors gave him to continue cultivating and reach a higher realm. Chapter 449. Whoosh. Lin Muyu, who was wearing a white robe of the imperial forest, stood in the air and looked down at the boundless sea of consciousness. Under his control, the sea slowly separated and opened up a deeper space in the sea of consciousness. Lin Muyu dived down and flew all the way to the deeper part of the sea of consciousness. After flying for a long time, he smelled the scent of vines and flowers. It was the place where the 7 luminaries' celestial gourd grew. In a chaotic and empty Ehai, there was a vine growing there with a golden gourd on top of it. It was the 7 luminaries' holy gourd. A martial spirit, as the name suggested, was a kind of soul power that grew in the soul. The 7 luminaries' holy gourd was rooted in the deepest part of Lin Muyu's Ehai. This was the source of the gourd's power. Pata. Lin Muyu gently landed on the ground and walked toward the gourd vines. She reached out her hand and gently touched it. Immediately, a smooth feeling seeped into her body. The 7 luminaries' celestial gourd also felt its master's caress. It was happy as if it was acting coquettishly. As the breeze blew, the vines swayed gently. The golden gourd also swayed gently. The golden gourd was still young. After all, it was only a 9th-level martial spirit and had reached the peak of martial arts. Lin Muyu slowly let go of the gourd and walked in another direction. She could feel a strong metallic aura. That's right, the god-binding lock belonged to the metal element. Less than 100 meters away from where the 7 luminaries' celestial gourd was rooted, a small golden mountain stood. The mountain was slowly emitting a golden light, which clearly showed the origin of the god-binding lock martial soul. It was actually made from the spiritual energy of iron or extracted from rocks. No wonder the god-binding lock was called the most destructive martial soul in the world. Lin Muyu came to the foot of the mountain and pressed his hand on it. Suddenly, there was a joyful feeling from the god-binding lock martial spirit, and the golden light on the mountain became even brighter. "Hello, god-binding lock martial spirit." Lin Muyu smiled. The golden light on the mountain became even stronger. This was the god-binding lock martial spirit's response, like a child's response to his father. "Now we can begin." Lin Muyu slowly left the mountain and arrived between the god-binding chains and the mysterious 7 luminaries. She opened her hands at the same time and shouted in a low voice, "Come here now." Buzz. The golden gourd on the calabash vine disappeared and reappeared in Lin Muyu's left hand. The golden light on the golden mountain also disappeared, and golden god-binding chains appeared in her right hand. Lin Muyu slowly moved her arms together, at the same time matchmaking, the two martial souls peacefully coexisting. However, what Lin Muyu did not expect was that when her arms were about to come together, the god-binding chains suddenly became agitated. One of the ropes whipped the golden gourd's body, and the golden gourd's light shone brightly and condensed into a gourd wall. With a buzzing sound, the golden gourd's buttocks slammed heavily into the god-binding chains. It seemed to be very pleased with itself, as if it was saying, "I'll smash you to death, you idiot." Swoosh swoosh. The god-binding chains' counterattack was even more domineering. The 9 god-binding chains struck the 7 luminaries' holy gourd from different directions. Golden light splashed everywhere. The 7 luminaries' holy gourd was also going all out. Suddenly, golden vines rose from the gourd and wrapped around the god-binding chains, spewing poison and thorns. Unfortunately, the god-binding chains were just a metal weapon with intelligence. They did not care at all. With a roar, the 7 luminaries' holy gourd gathered around the god-binding chains. F***ck. Lin Muyu could not help but curse in her mind. It was not without reason that her god-binding chains had been named by Chu Chu as the star-binding chains. Indeed, it had been perfectly integrated with the star arts. With a flash of light, the god-binding chains activated its skill. Initial starlight. Amazing, the martial soul automatically used the master's skill. Who would have thought that the 7 luminaries' celestial gourd would not give in at all? After letting out a sharp cry, the light around the gourd grew brighter and the celestial bodies of all living beings suddenly flew up and collided with the 7 luminaries' celestial body. Bang! The light in the depths of the Yi exploded and a small mushroom cloud was formed. My goodness, the depths of the Yi had become a battlefield. Then the second move came. Star Chains vs 3 Luminaries Calamity. In reality, he would never be able to see this scene. After all, the star arts and the 7 luminaries' profound energy were both Lin Muyu's abilities. It was impossible for him to fight with his own hands. But now he could see it. Hiss hiss. The 7 luminaries' holy gourd let out a miserable cry and retreated quickly from the palm of his left hand. The god-binding chains in his right hand were full of fighting spirit and arrogance. The 9 golden chains twisted slowly as if they were provoking the opponent. Buzz. The 7 luminaries' holy gourd spun rapidly and opened its mouth, trying to absorb the god-binding chains. Moreover, a faint voice came from the golden gourd, similar to Lin Muyu's voice. God-binding chains, I'll call you an idiot. Do you dare to accept? Another Lin Muyu's voice came from the god-binding chains. Damn gourd, you're courting death. The starlight exploded and the god-binding chains used its ultimate move. 5 mountains descend from the heavens. The golden gourd was also surrounded by bright starlight. Countless stars gathered in the air and directly attacked the god-binding chains. 7 luminaries stars transformation. Boom. The entire Yi seemed to have exploded. The chaotic space was destroyed by the shockwave of the explosion. Not an inch of space was left untouched. Fortunately, this was a battle in the Yi. If it was in the real world, the shockwave produced by the 7 glorious stars transformation against the 5 mountains descending from the heavens would be absolutely destructive. Woo! In reality, Lin Muyu's brows were tightly knitted together. The light of her martial soul was faintly discernible. Suddenly, she spat out a mouthful of blood, but she remained seated on the spot, quietly trying to control and pacify her 2 martial souls. Qin Han looked at Lin Muyu and could not help but nod. His face was full of praise. This child's willpower and endurance were top-notch and her comprehension was also very rare. When he looked at Qin Yin, his eyes were full of love. As a descendant of the Qin family, Qin Yin was already close to the peak of the heaven realm at such a young age. It was only a matter of time before she stepped into the saint realm. Also, this girl was the most beautiful and had the most natural temperament Qin Han had ever seen. When he thought of the women in the 9th generation of the Qin family, Qin Han could not help but shudder. He hurriedly shook his head. It was like a nightmare. No one would have thought that the bloodline of the founding emperor Qin Yi could give birth to such a tragic descendant. The divine power slowly circulated around Qin Han's body. He said leisurely, don't worry. The power of the martial spirits is very limited. When the 2 martial spirits are exhausted, you can use the method I taught you to make them adapt to each other and trust each other. In Yi, Lin Muyu could hear Qin Han's voice. She lowered her head and continued to endure the great pain as she watched the 2 martial souls play with their lives in Yi. Admittedly, when a martial soul was with its master for a long time, it would also be affected by its master's habits. The starry god-binding chains and the 7 luminaries' celestial gourd were very good at playing with their lives, making Lin Muyu feel like dying. Finally, after an unknown amount of time, the 2 martial souls were almost completely drained of energy. They lay on the ground on the verge of death. The golden gourd's light was very dim and the god-binding chains were also limp. At this time, Lin Muyu suddenly raised her arms and smiled. Are you 2 done? It's my turn now. The 2 martial souls trembled at the same time. They did not know what their master wanted to do. Lin Muyu waved her iron fist and said indifferently, now the 2 of you will attack me together. If you can't beat me, you will be beaten up. Understand? The 7 luminaries' celestial gourd suddenly emitted a bright light and moved away from the god-binding chains, as if it did not want to be on the same side. Lin Muyu immediately flew forward and punched the golden gourd to the ground. She lifted her battle boots and kicked wildly. Then she turned around and condensed the starry chain, forcibly pulling the god-binding chains over. She raised her fist and smashed it on the ground. She then stepped on the god-binding chains and the 7 luminaries' celestial gourd. She kicked and kicked fiercely. She felt pain as she hit them. After all, the source of her martial soul was her own spiritual power. Therefore, a very funny scene appeared in Lin Muyu's Yi. Her master pressed the 2 martial souls into the depths of her Yi and beat them up. She cried in pain as she hit them. After beating them up for a long time, the 7 luminaries' celestial gourd and the god-binding chains finally decided to fight back. They activated their abilities at the same time. The first appearance of starlight and the chaos of the common people attacked Lin Muyu's spiritual body in the Yi. You're thinking too much. Lin Muyu suddenly spun his iron fist and punched out with the demonic sonic fist. His main body's strength was obviously stronger than his martial soul's. He broke the first appearance of starlight and the chaos of the common people with one punch. Then he pressed them down and beat them up again. After a long time, the 2 martial souls recovered a bit of strength. They didn't want to admit defeat and came to beat their master again. Then they were immediately beaten up by Lin Muyu. However, although the 2 martial souls attacked together, they didn't cooperate with each other. They fought separately and were beaten up badly by Lin Muyu. It seemed like the fusion couldn't be completed in a day or 2. He had to take it slow. The god-binding chains and the 7 luminaries' celestial gourd were both sharp martial souls. Their pride couldn't be blasphemed. It was true that it couldn't be completed in a day or 2 to fuse them together. The morning light shone into the pavilion and Lin Muyu spat out another mouthful of blood. He had almost no strength left in his body and his spiritual sense was empty. It was as if his 2 martial souls had been crippled. He slowly opened his eyes and shook his head. Ancestor, I've reached my limit. Qin Han smiled. Not bad. Go back and have a good sleep. I'll come back tonight. I'll continue teaching you in Shaoyin. Yes. Qin Yin slowly opened her eyes. After a night of cultivation, her eyes were filled with vigor. It was obvious that her cultivation had improved a lot. However, when she saw Lin Muyu's miserable appearance, she said, Big brother Yu, how did you become like this? Lin Muyu clutched his chest and said, This is the price of cultivating martial soul fusion. Shaoyin, help me up. I'm out of strength. All right. Qin Yin quickly put his arm on her shoulder and supported Lin Muyu's body. She couldn't help but laugh. Poor fellow, you can sleep in the Phoenix Perching Hall today. You can come here at night to cultivate. And all right. Just send someone to the sacred temple to inform them. N. Chapter 450. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Lin Muyu's cultivation was progressing step by step. She had already cultivated the first realm of the martial soul fusion to the point where the 2 martial souls could fuse together, and the repulsion between them was no longer as intense as before. Qin Yin's cultivation was also increasing day by day under Qin Han's guidance, and she was getting closer and closer to a breakthrough. In the afternoon, the lazy sunlight shone on the side hall of the Zetian Palace. It was summer and Qin Yin was wearing a long dress. Her long hair fell to the side of her right shoulder, and it was as beautiful as a black waterfall. She slowly spread out the 2 scrolls and raised her head to look at Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing and the others. Her gaze was gentle as if it could melt a pool of autumn water and she smiled faintly. These are the 2 propositions that I plan to implement in the country. The system of prefectures and the distribution of martial arts. General Feng, Commander Yu, Marquis Zheng, take a look. It was unknown when she stopped calling Lin Muyu Big Brother Yu, but Commander Yu during the meeting. It seemed that the female official Shangguan Jingyue's reminder was quite effective. Prefectures and prefectures? Xing Yifan asked after being startled. Yes. Qin Yin nodded lightly, opened the scrolls and placed them on the table in front of Xing Yifan. She said, Previously the empire implemented a provincial system, and all military and political affairs were under the control of the provincial governors. This greatly restricted the imperial capital's control over the major provinces, so I plan to implement the prefectures and prefectures system. Every 10 to 20 prefectures and counties will form a prefectural prefecture, and a prefectural administrator will be appointed to take charge of political affairs. Every year, taxes will no longer be sent to the imperial capital from the provinces, but will be directly sent to the imperial capital by the prefectural administrator. Feng Jixing pondered for a moment and said with a smile, In this way, I'm afraid that the taxes and food collected from the Seven Seas Province, Cloud Province and Heaven's Pivot Province will increase by at least 3 to 5 times. Lin Muyu said, I'm afraid that once this prefectural system is announced, the provincial governors will be indignant, especially the feudal lords like Duke Yun and Duke Lan. So I plan to confer the titles of 2 Grand Dukes again. Zheng Yifan stroked his white beard and said with a faint smile, in the Empire's more than 7,000 years of history, no one has proposed the idea of prefectures and prefectures. Your Highness, I'm really surprised. Although the implementation of prefectures and prefectures is very difficult, but once it is implemented, the imperial capital and Your Highness will benefit greatly. However, what of the Empire? Zheng Yifan stroked his white beard and smiled faintly. In the 7,000 years of the Empire's history, no one has ever proposed the idea of a prefectural system. Your Highness has indeed surprised this old official. Although it may be very difficult to implement a prefectural system, once it is implemented throughout the country, the imperial capital and Your Highness will benefit endlessly. However, the current political problems of the Empire will be solved through the prefectural system, but what about the military? Your Highness, you should know that the main forces of each province are still in the hands of the governors. Qin Yin opened another scroll and said with a smile, this is the origin of the world subjugation of martial arts strategy. This world subjugation of martial arts strategy will be implemented together with the prefectural system. The salaries of all Holy Temple staff in the Empire will be doubled, and the Holy Temple will be encouraged to recruit people with extraordinary combat power to form an army. The deacons of each Holy Temple can decide the number of Holy Temple troops according to the size of the Holy Temple. The upper limit of the Holy Temple troops in a province is 20,000 people. The upper limit of the Holy Temple troops in a prefecture is 5,000 people. The upper limit of the Holy Temple troops in a county is 500 people. And the upper limit of the Holy Temple troops in a village is 50 people. All the weapons, provisions and salaries that the Holy Temple needs will be directly provided by each county. Moreover, all the deacons of the Holy Temple in a county must go to the imperial capital once a year to have an audience with the Grand Deacon. Oh my God! Feng Jixing was startled. He looked at Qin Yin in astonishment, and then looked at Lin Muyu and said, Your Highness, are you going to hand over the future command of the Empire to you? This brat has been visiting the 2 princesses of the devil race quite often recently. Ah! Qin Yin looked at Lin Muyu and she pouted, Is it true? Lin Muyu touched her nose awkwardly, Don't listen to General Feng's lies, I'm just doing my job. Qin Yin glared at her angrily. Beside her, Shangguan Jingyue, Qin Yin's chief maid, smiled and reminded, Your Highness, let's get down to business. Don't be jealous, Divine Marquis and the other lords are waiting for you to speak. Qin Yin looked up and saw at least 20 trusted ministers sitting at the table and they were all looking at her. She couldn't help but blush. She lowered her head and calmed down, then raised her face again and continued in a serious tone. The prefectural system and the World Martial Proclamation will be implemented in all the provinces of the Empire at the same time, so we need everyone's strength. The selection of the deacons of the Divine Palace will have to be done by Commander Yu. Remember, you must be swift and decisive. These 2 national strategies are the first political and military strategies I've implemented since I ascended the throne. No one is allowed to interfere or they will be committing the crime of deceiving the Emperor. Did you go visit the 2 demon princesses? After all, she was only a 24-year-old woman who had just transformed from a girl to an empress. She still couldn't get over the emotional barrier. Qin Yan Wei Chou and the others laughed loudly. Zhang Wei said, Commander, you just confess. Otherwise, if Her Highness keeps getting jealous, I'm afraid this meeting won't be able to continue. Lin Muyu immediately stood up, cupped her fists and said, Reporting to Your Highness, I went to visit the 2 demon princesses to learn more about the situation of the demon race from their mouths. We know almost nothing about the demon race's population, military strength, supplies and so on. Moreover, the armor demons don't have intelligence and the captured high demon race is silent, so the information from the 2 demon princesses is the most reliable. Feng Jixing added oil to the fire and said with a smile, Reporting to Your Highness, the little demon princess Feng Ning seems to like you very much. Qin Yin was even more unhappy. She sat there in a daze and her heart was in a mess. She asked, General Feng, I haven't seen that Feng Ning'er before. Is she especially young and beautiful? Feng Jixing said, yes, she can be said to be exceptionally beautiful. Qin Yin felt very uncomfortable in her heart for a moment, and her chest felt stuffy. However, as an empress, this meeting still had to continue. However, with her heart in a mess, how could she continue? Looking at the incoherent and bewildered Qin Yin, Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel distressed and fond of her. She stood up again, cupped her fists and said, Your Highness, although Feng Ning'er is young, beautiful, gentle and dignified, she is still too young and inexperienced. I don't like her. Your Highness, please rest assured and continue the meeting. Everyone is waiting. Tomorrow, there is no meeting tomorrow. I will accompany you to Tongtian Street to eat delicious food. Qin Yin immediately felt much more at ease, and her heart was beating wildly. She looked at the crowd seriously and continued, Then let's continue the meeting. As for the details of the prefectural system and the distribution of military force, we will discuss them here one by one. Then I will order the Ministry of Revenue and the Ministry of War to issue the imperial edict to the world together. Yes. After the meeting, all the details had been settled. What they needed to do next was to wait for the people to submit to them. It must be said that these two political strategies of Qin Yin's had come at the right time and were sufficiently decisive. If not for this, the world would probably forever be in the hands of the generals at the borders who held the military power. As the empress, Qin Yin did not have much decision-making power at all. Moreover, reappointing Tang Lan and Su Muyun as dukes was in itself a form of taking a step back in order to advance. The two dukes would probably not have much to say about it. More importantly, Qin Yin now had the support of three important subjects: Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing and Jin Yifan. In addition, there was also the divine-level expert Qin Han in the heart-nurturing pavilion. This former great empress of the empire was like a mountain sitting behind the Zetian Palace, making it impossible for Tang Lan and Su Muyun to face him directly, let alone try to influence Qin Yin's every move. With the passage of time, Qin Yin was no longer the Qin Yin from 3 years ago. Moreover, as the military power in the hands of Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing increased day by day, it was destined that the two dukes' control over the empire would continue to weaken. This was something that Tang Lan and Su Muyun were unable to change even if they wanted to. After the banquet, Lin Muyu rode takshu and left the Zetian Palace alone. She bought a basket of one-bite pastry from an old shop on Tongtian Street. This pastry was fragrant and sweet when it entered the mouth. It had a fresh osmanthus fragrance and was exquisitely made. It was a delicacy that the demon race's fairy capital did not have. At the same time, it was also something that the two demon race princesses Feng Jing'er and Feng Ning'er rarely ate. When Lin Muyu walked into the courtyard with the basket, a group of imperial guards knelt on one knee on both sides of the road. Greetings, Commander Yu. No need for formalities. Rise. Lin Muyu pushed the door open and entered. Under the candlelight, the two demon race princesses were pouting in a daze. When they saw Lin Muyu enter, Feng Ning'er seemed a little excited. She jumped up from her chair and greeted, Commander Yu, you're here. Greetings, Your Highnesses. Lin Muyu bowed and offered the pastry. Then she sat down on a guest chair at the side and said, Princess Jing'er will be returning to the fairy capital soon. Are you very happy? Feng Jing'er looked at her coldly and said, You guys are so despicable. You insist on leaving Ning'er alone in the capital. Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed. This can't be helped. This is war and politics. Once Princess Ning'er leaves the kingdom, I'm afraid the two demon race marshals will plot to attack our territory again. You have to take good care of Ning'er, Feng Jing'er said softly. Don't worry. Brother Feng and I will take good care of Princess Ning. No one can bully her here. After a while, when the time is right, I will bring her out to get some fresh air. That would be for the best. Lin Muyu smiled and said, All right, let's talk about the demon race. The divine race, not the demon race. All right, then let's talk about the divine race. Lin Muyu continued, I know that the god race is the same as us. They respect martial prowess, so the ranks of the higher demon races are also divided according to their strength. However, I don't understand why some of the 5-star demon sects are very powerful, while some can't even withstand a single blow. Feng Jing'er sneered. Those who have Grandmaster Demon Force are called 5-star demon masters. Above them, no matter how strong they are still 5-star demon masters. Father, Saint Master and Qianfeng are all 5-star demon masters, but their strength far surpasses the 15 elders. Lianhai, whom you defeated in 5 Valley City, was the weakest of the 15. How dare you be so proud of yourself? What a joke. Is that so? Lin Muyu wasn't angry and continued to ask, how are the Demon King and Saint Master's strength compared to Qianfeng's? Feng Jing looked at him quietly and said, I don't want to tell you. Chapter 451. Don't worry, His Highness will tell me. Lin Muyu focused on Feng Ning. Feng Ning was only 16 or 17 years old, so she didn't know much. She said innocently, I've never seen Father and the Sage Master fight, but Qianfeng and Lei Chong are so powerful, yet they are still so respectful to them. I think Father and the Sage Master must be more powerful than the 2 marshals. Lin Muyu pursed her lips and said, what is the population of the celestial race? How many cities do you have in Heaven's Gorge? We only have 1 city, which is the celestial capital. The rest are scattered villages and small towns. As for the total population, I'm not too sure because there are many branches of the Nephilim race, but there are only tens of thousands of true high-level celestials. Tens of thousands. Lin Muyu was stunned and continued to ask, the armor demons are the main force of the demon race. I heard from the captives that they are tamed. I want to ask, how do the celestial race tame them? How many are there in Shendu now? The armor demons have a huge appetite. Can the food in Heaven's Gorge really satisfy the needs of hundreds of thousands of armor demons? Well, Feng Ning picked up a cake and said, actually the armor demons are created. Created? Lin Muyu was even more shocked. At this time Feng Jinger's voice was very strict. Ning, shut up. You can't tell anyone about the armor demons and the winged race. If you tell the humans, it's the same as betraying the celestial race and father. Do you really want to be an unfilial daughter? Feng Ninger was startled. Tears of grievance swirled in her eyes. Oh, sister. Ninger won't say anything. Feng Jing felt a little distressed and said softly, Ning, there are some things that cannot be said, even if the other party looks like a good person. She looked up at Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu smiled awkwardly. Indeed, she was not a good person in the eyes of the demon race. She was more like a war weapon of the human empire, the demon god of death. All right then. If your Highness Ning doesn't want to tell me, then I won't ask. Lin Muyu stood up and cupped her fists. There are still many things that I need to deal with in the sanctum. I will return now. Rest well, your Highnesses. I will come to see you again. Good night, Commander Yu. Feng Ning said. Lin Muyu frowned and turned to leave. Late at night, the deacon's office was quiet. Lin Muyu sat cross-legged on the bed, his spiritual sense slowly seeping into his EC, flying towards the depths of the EC. Not long after, he arrived at the chaotic space. In the distance, a 7 luminaries celestial gourd and a god-binding lock quietly lay in the depths of the EC. After he floated down, he called out, Sons, Father is back. Immediately, the 7 luminaries celestial gourd and god-binding lock transmitted a sense of joy. Lin Muyu slowly opened his hands, condensing the god-binding lock and the 7 luminaries celestial gourd in his palms at the same time. This time, the rejection between the 2 martial spirits was almost completely gone. Lin Muyu closed his eyes and used his heart to feel the joy and sorrow of the 2 martial spirits. Using the method taught by Qin Han, he slowly closed his arms together. Buzz buzz. The 7 luminaries celestial gourd rotated slowly, and the god-binding lock hovered around the gourd, shining with golden light. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. Finally, the 2 martial spirits could completely coexist. Even though Lin Muyu provoked them with his thoughts, the 7 luminaries celestial gourd and god-binding lock still coexisted peacefully, as if they were good brothers. It's done. He raised his eyebrows and laughed. It had been half a month and he had finally cultivated the first realm of martial spirit fusion. Next was the second realm, origin. The so-called origin was actually to return to its original state, to cultivate the martial spirit to its most original state. Of course, it was not an easy process and it needed to be realized one step at a time. Sitting in the depths of the E-High with his spiritual consciousness, Lin Muyu secretly operated the technique, and suddenly rays of brilliant light flowed around him. The 7 luminaries' celestial gourd and the god-binding lock surrounded their master on both sides, and they seemed to be enjoying themselves under the protection of their master's spiritual consciousness. Lin Muyu closed his eyes, and his spiritual consciousness entered the 7 luminaries' celestial gourd again. Following the vines and veins, he could feel the surging 7 luminaries' Xian energy in the 7 luminaries' celestial gourd, and he could feel its strong vitality. Time and time again, the 7 luminaries' celestial gourd's powerful strength was also constantly being reshaped, and finally, it jumped from the 10th grade to the 1st grade. Under the baptism of his master's power, the 7 luminaries' celestial gourd gradually returned to its original state. After a few hours, the golden light on the outer layer of the gourd dimmed a lot, and the leaves of the gourd had also shrunk a lot, and there were even wilted flowers at the bottom of the gourd. At the same time, the god-binding lock was also changing, and the strong metal body shrank a lot, and there was a lot of limestone material in it. At this time, Lin Muyu was a little excited. She had probably forgotten what the original state of the 2 martial spirits was, and the second realm was to let the 2 martial spirits see their original state, which meant that the 2 people had to be honest with each other and then they could be together. Now that she thought about it, Qin Han really put a lot of effort into creating martial spirit fusion. In the middle of the night, Do Qi revolved around his body, and the youngest temple deacon in history continued to train. Lin Muyu knew that she had to cultivate and she had to pursue a higher and stronger power, or she would not be able to survive in this world, let alone protect the people she cared about. Qian Feng and Lei Chong were already people she couldn't handle at the moment, and according to Feng Ning'er, the Demon Emperor and the Saint Master were stronger than Qian Feng. With such strong opponents, if she didn't cultivate well, she was destined to be killed. After all, she was the great deacon of the empire and the commander of the 50,000 soldiers in the Longdan army camp, and the demon race wanted to kill her just like the empire wanted to kill Qian Feng. Early in the morning, the roosters in the backyard of the divine hall began to crow, and Lin Muyu slowly woke up from her cultivation. Her spiritual sense seeped into the depths of her hide to cultivate, and it was a kind of sleeping state, so she had already rested and stored up her energy. There was nothing important today, and other than cultivating, she would accompany Qin Yin. After washing up, she put on her armor, and when she came to the main hall of the divine hall, she found Guyang holding a scroll in his hand, teaching the art of beast taming to the people of the beast taming department. The main altar of the divine hall first taught dozens of people the basics of the art of beast taming, and then the rest would learn it one by one. This was also Lin Muyu's intention. When the group of instructors and sparring partners saw Lin Muyu, they immediately cupped their fists respectfully and said, "Greetings, great deacon." Lin Muyu waved her hand and said with a smile, "Everyone has worked hard, please continue to cultivate, I'm going out." "Farewell, great deacon." This kind of respect was too much for a carefree person like Lin Muyu to bear. In fact, he had the personality of a ranger, but now he had to endure so many restrictions. If it wasn't because the empire needed his reputation and strength, and Qin Yin needed him to wield military power, he would have long resigned from his position as the great deacon of the divine hall. To roam the pugilistic world and live a carefree life, this was the real life for Lin Muyu. In Zetian Palace Hall, Qin Yin had been waiting for a long time. Today she was wearing a beautiful dark blue dress and an exquisite cloak. Inside the cloak there was a golden purple flower emblem. This kind of attire was the standard for a noble lady in Lanyan City, so others couldn't tell that she was the empress, and at most they would think that she was a noble lady. "Let's go." After Lin Muyu arrived, Qin Yin temporarily handed over the affairs of Zetian Palace Hall to Shangguan Jingyue. She led her mount and galloped out of Zetian Palace Hall with Lin Muyu. Along the way no one stopped them. With Lin Muyu as the empress's bodyguard, no one in Lanyan City could hurt her. Therefore Zhang Wei and the rest let them pass and even gave Lin Muyu a VIP card for the most luxurious restaurant in the empire. Their intentions were self-evident. Lin Muyu immediately felt that Zhang Wei was too impure, while Qin Yin smiled without saying a word. It was unknown whether she didn't understand or was pretending not to. "Brother Yu, let's go to the Chamber of Commerce first." Qin Yin pursed her red lips and said, "My ancestor said that I can already step into the Saint region, but I need a spirit stone that is more than 10,000 years old as a catalyst. Therefore I want to buy a spirit stone." When they arrived at the Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce, they found Jin Xiaotang. Jin Xiaotang didn't recognize her at first, But when she recognized that it was the Empress, she was really shocked. She hurriedly bowed and said, "Greetings, Your Highness." Qin Yin quickly helped her up and said with a smile, "You don't have to be so polite. I'm traveling in disguise," shouting, "Don't expose my identity." "Yes, Your Highness." Jin Xiaotang stuck out her tongue and smiled. Lin Muyu then said, "Your Highness needs a spirit stone that is more than 10,000 years old to advance. Does the Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce have it?" "No." Jin Xiaotang said apologetically, "Recently the Empire has been at war with the Devil race, so the spirit stones that we can receive are very few. The best spirit stone that we have at the Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce is more than 9,000 years old. However, I know that our competitor, the Dragon Search Chamber of Commerce, has purchased a few spirit stones that are more than 10,000 years old from the Lingnan Yihe nation. How about I bring you over to have a look? Perhaps you can buy it." "All right." Lin Muyu nodded. The Dragon Search Chamber of Commerce was run by Pan Dingtian, and the real owner was the Tang sect of the Seven Seas. Originally, the Dragon Search Chamber of Commerce and the Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce were like fire and water, but Qin Yin urgently needed a spirit stone. Therefore there was no other way. Furthermore, Pan Dingtian should also give them some face. Even if he didn't, according to the business rules, they could just buy and sell directly. Therefore the three of them left the Chamber of Commerce and turned a corner. In front of them stood a towering building. This was the Dragon Search Chamber of Commerce, which was currently the most powerful chamber of commerce in Lanyan City. "Let's go in." Lin Muyu, who was dressed in a white imperial robe, strode in with Jin Xiaotang and Qin Yin. Immediately the guards at the door were stunned. They didn't know who Lin Muyu was, but they recognized the 3 gold stars on his military rank. He was a commander of the empire. Furthermore, he was so young. They could easily guess who this young general was. Chapter 452. Xiaotang. In the depths of the dragon-seeking chamber of commerce, a young girl sprinted toward them. It was Pan Xiaridium, Pan Dingtian's daughter, and one of the main pillars of the dragon-seeking chamber of commerce. "Xiaridium, how have you been?" Jin Xiaotang asked her friend with a smile. Pan Xiaridium pouted. "I'm fine. Why did you come to the dragon-seeking chamber of commerce?" As she spoke, she recognized Lin Muyu and hurriedly bowed. "Pan Xiaridium greets Commander Yu." "You're welcome." Lin Muyu smiled. Pan Xiaridium then looked at Qin Yin and murmured, "Who's this?" "She's a friend of mine." Lin Muyu covered for Qin Yin and said, "We're here to buy a high-grade spiritual stone. Please show us the way, Miss Xiaridium." "Sure, no problem. Follow me." "Okay." After passing through a few corridors, the group arrived at the depths of the dragon-seeking chamber of commerce. In front of them were several spirit stone shops that were tightly guarded by armored soldiers. Indeed, although spirit stones were small, high-grade spirit stones were priceless. Therefore, there were mercenaries guarding the inside and outside of each spirit stone shop. Customers had to protect their spirit stones and their safety inside the spirit stone shop. Once they left the shop, they would have nothing to do with anyone. "Miss Xiaridium, you're here." A chubby shopkeeper walked up and smiled. "What can I do for you today?" Pan Xiaridium smiled. "Shopkeeper Ouyang, I brought a few friends here to pick out spiritual stones. May I know what kind of spiritual stones you have in your shop? Don't hide them." "Ah, of course not." Shopkeeper Ouyang pointed to a row of locked cabinets behind him and said, "Our shop has a total of 2 spirit stones over 10,000 years old, and 11 spirit stones over 7,000 years old. Which one would you like to have?" "What do spiritual stones that are over 10,000 years old look like?" Lin Muyu asked. "One is a fire-greedy wolf spiritual stone that is 1,400 years old, and the other is a light magic stone that is 12,000 years old." 12,000 light magic. Lin Muyu furrowed her brows and said, "From what I know, light demons are a very rare type of spirit beast. Furthermore, light demons that are over 10,000 years old are even rarer, so they can't be weak. Who has the ability to kill a 2,000-year-old light demon?" Shopkeeper Ouyang smiled. "Lord Commander, you've misunderstood. This light demon wasn't killed by a human but died of natural causes. It's said that it was struck by lightning deep in the mountains of Lingnan, and its corpse rotted for more than 4 years. In the end, it was discovered by a hunter who used a hunter's dagger to cut open its skull and found this spirit stone. That hunter didn't know how powerful this spirit stone was and sold it for 1,000 Jinhun coins. Later, the profiteers of Lingnan raised the price to 50,000 Jinhun coins. After that, this brat's people bought it for 80,000 Jinhun coins and sent it to the dragon-seeking Chamber of Commerce. 80,000 Jinhun coins. Lin Mu smiled. May I know how much this spirit stone is sold for? We've been traveling back and forth along the way. In addition, we've been targeted by mercenaries. Over 100 of our men have died for this spirit stone. We've also spent a lot of money on their pensions and family compensation, so... Shopkeeper Ouyang chuckled. Business is business. For Miss Pan Zairian's sake, I'll only sell it for 200,000 Jinhun coins. 200,000 Jinhun coins? Qin Yin frowned slightly. Why is it so expensive? Isn't the common price of a 2,000-year-old spirit stone around 50,000 Jinhun coins? Shopkeeper Ouyang cupped his fists and smiled. Miss, you might not know this, but light magic stones are very rare. They're rare in the first place, not to mention that they've been traveling back and forth from Lingnan. That's why the labor costs are so high. Everyone knows that Lingnan's Iha kingdom has sealed off the steel walls. Our people have to spend tens of thousands of Jinhun coins just to get a spirit stone. Lin Muyu thought for a while and said, 150,000 Jinhun coins is a suitable price. We'll have a deal as long as you agree. Well. Shopkeeper Ouyang seemed a little reluctant. Jin Xiaotang smiled faintly and said, one spirit stone for 150,000 is already a sky-high price. I hope Shopkeeper Ouyang won't push your luck. Otherwise, we will think that you are deliberately making things difficult for us. Why would I? Shopkeeper Ouyang replied respectfully. I'm just a businessman. I'm not that cunning. However, I'm afraid that I won't be able to recoup the cost of the 150,000 Jinhun coins. You won't be able to recoup the cost. Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows. Do you think I've never been to Iha Kingdom? Although their steel walls are sealed, ordinary merchants can pass through for a few hundred Jinhun coins. Don't think that you can ask for an exorbitant price just because we need this spirit stone. Haha, that's absolutely not what I meant. Shopkeeper Ouyang was all smiles, but he refused to lower the price. Just then a group of people came from afar. The leader was a man in luxurious brocade clothes. He looked to be in his 50s and his face was glowing. What's the matter? Why is it so noisy? Shopkeeper Ouyang hurriedly said respectfully, Ah, it's Boss Pan. The man was Pan Dingtian, the person in charge of the Dragon Search Chamber of Commerce. Zairidium, what's the matter? Pan Dingtian frowned. Pan Zairidium said respectfully, Father Xiaotang brought 2 customers here to buy the 12,000 light beast spirit stone, but shopkeeper Ouyang asked for 200,000 Jinhun coins. They're in a stalemate. Pan Dingtian's eyes fell on Lin Muyu's military rank. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, Commander. Judging from your age, you must be Commander Yu, one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan? Lin Muyu nodded. Greetings, Boss Pan. Pan Dingtian said, Commander Yu wants this 12,000 light beast spirit stone? Yes, but 200,000 Jinhun coins are too expensive. Your Chamber of Commerce is asking for a sky-high price. Haha. Pan Dingtian laughed. Cultivators have no time to cultivate due to the constant wars these past few years. Therefore, the quantity and quality of the spirit stones hunted have decreased significantly, which directly led to the inflated price. I hope, Commander, you can understand. The price of this spirit stone will probably not change. If, Commander, you can afford it, then buy it. If not, then forget it. He changed the topic and said with a smile, Commander Yu, as the favorite of Her Royal Highness and the Grand Deacon of the Holy Sanctum, you must not be short of money, right? The Dragon Search Chamber of Commerce was a business of Qihai City. Pan Dingtian must be Tanglan's man. Even his words were tit for tat with Lin Muyu. Pan Zairidium frowned but did not say anything. Lin Muyu looked at Pan Dingtian and smiled faintly. Pan Dingtian, are you against me? I wouldn't dare. Pan Dingtian cupped his fists. It's just that I'm a merchant. I hope, Commander, you can understand. If I was really against you, then I wouldn't have sold this spirit stone to you. After all, the Dragon Search Chamber of Commerce and the Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce are like fire and water. We've already set a rule that we won't sell anything to the Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce. I only agreed to sell this spirit stone to you because of Commander Yu. The Dragon Search Chamber of Commerce sure has a bad temper. Qin Yin's eyes were filled with anger. Do you know that the Xian Flower Chamber of Commerce is the Empress's business? Did Duke Lan give you special permission to be so against me? Pan Dingtian smiled. Young lady, please calm down. I didn't mean it that way. At this moment, an extremely arrogant voice came from afar. Oh, isn't this Commander Yu? It was Tang Lu. Perhaps it was because Lin Muyu had blocked his view, but Tang Lu didn't see Qin Yin's appearance. He smiled domineeringly and said, What? Does Commander Yu still want something from our Dragon Search Chamber of Commerce? If that's the case, then this old friend of yours will have to give you some face. Pan Dingtian, listen carefully. No matter what Lin Muyu buys from the Dragon Search Chamber of Commerce, the price will be doubled. This spirit stone is 400,000, not a penny less. If he can't afford it, then don't buy it. Lin Muyu was so angry that her body trembled. The brilliant sun battle light slowly circulated around her body. What? Do you still dare to hit people? Tang Lu said with a look of disgust. Lanyan City has its own rules. If you dare to hit people in the Dragon Search Chamber of Commerce, I'm afraid that even the Empress won't be able to protect you. Is that so? Qin Yin's voice came from behind Lin Muyu. She slowly lifted the black cloak from her head, revealing a beautiful face. She looked at Tang Lu indifferently and said, Sir Tang Lu, you are so awe-inspiring. Tang Lu suddenly trembled and hurriedly knelt on the ground. This humble subject Tang Lu greets the Empress. Pan Dingtian, Pan Ziyun and Manager Ouyang came to their senses. All of their faces turned pale as they knelt on the ground. Together with the group of guards, they knelt and said in unison, Greetings to the Empress. Qin Yin's gaze was cold as she said, Tang Lu, you have repeatedly targeted Lin Muyu. Do you know your crime? Tang Lu's body trembled. This humble subject doesn't know what crime I have committed? Qin Yin said word by word, Lin Muyu is the Empire's commander. She is a rank 1 general and is conferred the title of Marquis Yunling. She is the great deacon of the Divine Palace. She is many ranks higher than you. According to the Empire's laws, you should be beheaded for offending her. If it wasn't for giving face to Duke Lan, Commander Yu would have killed you long ago. Why don't you feel grateful? Tang Lu was so scared that his face turned pale. Your Highness, this humble subject is ignorant. I hope that your Highness can spare my life. Qin Yin's gaze was indifferent. When she thought about how the prefectures needed Tang Lan's support, she smiled slightly. Forget it. Commander Yu won't lower himself to your level. Tang Lu, are you in charge of the Dragon-Seeking Merchant Association? Your Highness, give me this 2000 light-type spirit stone as a token of your loyalty. Yes, Your Highness. Someone take out the spiritual stone and offer it to Her Highness. Tang Lu's face was deathly pale as he continued, The entire Great Qin belongs to Your Highness, let alone a mere spiritual stone. Lin Muyu smiled and said softly, The young master of the Seven Seas Tang sect, Tang Lu, has finally learned to be sensible. Chapter 453. Night Heart Nurturing Pavilion. Qin Yin started to refine the 2000 light attribute spirit stone while Lin Muyu took out the treasure refining cauldron to help her refine it. When the cauldron's energy surrounded the surroundings, Qin Han couldn't help but say, Yu's energy is very mysterious, this old man can't see through it at all. Lin Muyu smiled awkwardly and didn't explain. This kind of thing couldn't be explained. She couldn't tell Qin Han that this was a cheating device she brought from Earth. Qin Yin closed her eyes and slowly stepped on the floating energy of the God-binding chains. The true dragon God-binding chains seemed to have a life of its own as it greedily absorbed the spiritual energy from the spirit stone. On the other hand, Lin Muyu worked hard to use the treasure refining cauldron to grab the essence of the spirit stone and smelt it. About an hour later, Qin Yin let out a soft moan and slowly opened her beautiful eyes. Her clear eyes were full of vigor and an invisible domain aura spread out in the surroundings. Obviously, Qin Yin had stepped into the Saint Realm. Not bad. Qin Han nodded and smiled. Xiao Yin has stepped into the Saint Realm. How long has it been since the Empire's first sovereign to step into the Saint Realm? Qin Yin thought for a moment and said, 300 years. Good. Qin Han twirled his beard and smiled. My Qin clan finally has a successor. You are able to step into the Saint Realm at such a young age, I'm sure you will step into the God Realm in a few decades. The divine world will have another peerless expert. It was obvious that a god who possessed a first-grade god-binding chains was stronger than a god with a slightly inferior martial spirit. Qin Han looked at Qin Yin with doting eyes and said, "Little Yin, you possess the god-binding shackles, and Ayu also possesses the god-binding shackles. After the two of you get married, the probability of your child comprehending the god-binding shackles will be very high. The ancestor is actually very much looking forward to how strong your child will be, and whether the pupil will surpass the teacher." Qin Yin couldn't help but blush and she said shyly, "Ancestor, what are you saying?" Qin Han laughed. "Man and woman should get married when they are of age. Isn't that the way of the ancient times? What's more, do you think ancestor can't tell? You like you and you likes you, it's a match made in heaven. Why should we care about the opinions of the world?" Wait a little longer. After the demon race is eliminated and the divine empire is united, ancestor will arrange the marriage for the two of you. After the marriage, ancestor will probably step into the second god realm, and that will be the time I ascend. Ah. Lin Muyu was surprised and asked respectfully, "Ancestor, why did you wait until you become a divine king before ascending?" Qin Han pondered for a moment then said, "The divine world is not as righteous as people imagine it to be. On the contrary, the divine world is also a world where the strong bully the weak. The weak are prey to the strong. Weak gods are easily killed and their godhoods are stolen and refined by other gods. Although the gods made an agreement several tens of thousands of years ago, stealing godhoods is still a common occurrence. Our ancestors knew that they could only be considered average in the divine world, so they bitterly cultivated in the human world, and only went to the divine world after becoming a divine king." Lin Muyu smiled. "I think ancestor should have noticed that there is a strand of divine power in my body." "That's right," Qin Han said. "I have never asked you, why do you have such a pure strand of divine power with only a mortal body? This is too impossible." "That is because I met the 7 luminaries demon emperor by chance. This strand of divine power was given to me by him. Even the 7 luminaries' profound energy was imparted to me by him." "The 7 luminaries demon emperor? It really is him?" Qin Han's brows furrowed as he said, "The 7 luminaries demon emperor was an ancient god emperor. His cultivation was shocking and he was unreasonable, so his reputation in the divine realm wasn't too good. However, his strength was too strong, so much so that he was the only one in the divine realm. Even ancestor god Emperor Qin Yi couldn't do anything to him. After so many years, I don't know where ancestor Qin Yi went." Lin Muyu immediately knelt on the ground and said, "Ancestor, please forgive Yu's sins." What's wrong? Why are you bowing to me?" Qin Han asked in surprise. Lin Muyu raised her head to look at him and said, "I won't hide it from ancestor. 200 years ago I traveled to the purgatory plane because of a chance. I witnessed ancestor Qin Yi leading hundreds of experts from the heaven realm and the human realm to kill the 7 luminaries demon emperor. Unfortunately they failed. Qin Yi, many gods and saint domain experts were killed by the 7 luminaries demon emperor. After that, the 7 luminaries demon emperor reversed time and brought me to the present day 204 years later. He was fated with me. It was also because of this that I obtained the spirit flower fragment of the god-binding chains that ancestor Qin Yi left behind. I refined it and comprehended the god-binding chains." "What?" Qin Han took 2 steps back, his face full of grief. Is this true? Ancestor god Emperor Qin Yi is already dead?" "Yes." Lin Muyu said respectfully, "I don't want to hide it from you. That's why I'm telling you this. I hope ancestor can forgive me. Please don't blame the 7 luminaries demon emperor. He is actually not as bad as people think. He's just very strong and battle-hungry." Qin Han sighed and slumped into the chair. He said, "Ancestor was the first expert of the Qin clan to ascend to the god emperor realm. He was also one of the few experts in the human realm. He was extremely talented and was known as the strongest cultivator in the human realm in the last 10,000 years. I didn't expect him to have already fallen. Forget it. The war in the divine realm has nothing to do with the human realm. Moreover, after ancestor ascended, he almost cut off all contact with the Qin clan. After all, gods and human realm are separated. I naturally won't blame the 7 luminaries demon emperor." Lin Muyu said, "In the future, when ancestor meets the 7 luminaries demon emperor in the divine realm, try not to attack him if you can. If the 7 luminaries demon emperor makes things difficult for you, just say my name. I believe he will definitely let you off. Qin Han smiled. Oh, I understand. On the other hand, how's your martial soul fusion cultivation going? I've already entered the second stage of the origin cultivation. Start cultivating then. Ancestor wants to see. Yes. Lin Muyu sat cross-legged while Qin Yin happily summoned the god-binding shackles. After breaking through to the Saint Realm, her god-binding shackles gained a power enhancement ability. Just like Lin Muyu's god-binding shackles, it could greatly increase the destructive power of its owner's martial arts. This was also the ability that the god-binding shackles needed the most. Therefore Qin Yin was extremely happy. She tilted her head and looked at Lin Muyu seriously cultivating. Her beautiful face was filled with happiness and satisfaction. Swoosh. Lin Muyu's spiritual body quickly entered the EC and arrived at the depths of the EC in a few steps. In that chaotic space, there were thousands of stars in the sky, and their light shone on the ground, illuminating the god-binding shackles and the gourd vine. At this time Lin Muyu was searching for the origin of the 2 martial souls. She floated to the ground and with a low shout, the 2 martial souls immediately changed under their master's command. The gourd vine quickly degenerated and turned into a young gourd. The 7 luminaries' celestial gourd also turned into a green gourd the size of a fist, swaying slowly in the breeze. The god-binding shackles turned into a golden rock that constantly glowed with golden light. This was the realm that Lin Muyu could reach at the moment. Qin Han's laughter came from the EC. Not bad, not bad. You are indeed talented. This old man spent almost half a year to make the 2 martial souls reach the end of War Realm, but you did it in half a month. Continue to work hard and find the origin of the 7 luminaries' celestial gourd and god-binding shackles. That way you can reach a higher degree of fusion between the 2 martial souls. Degree of fusion? Lin Muyu was surprised. Qin Han nodded. That's right. There are many people in this world who have 2 martial souls. There are no less than 100 in the God world and half of them can fuse their martial souls. The higher the degree of fusion between the 2 martial souls, the more power they can display. My ancestors' 8 Desolation Sword and God-binding shackles have a 70% degree of fusion. In the God world I am already one of the best. But your martial soul seems to have a stronger dependence on your soul and you have a chance to break through this degree of fusion. Work hard and don't be lazy. You must find the origin of your martial soul. Yes, I understand. Thank you for your guidance, ancestor. Lin Muyu respectfully continued to cultivate. In the blink of an eye, it was already the next day. Although the forms of the 2 martial souls didn't change much, Lin Muyu could clearly feel that the strength of his soul had increased a lot during his cultivation. It was definitely a good thing for him to have a martial soul in his soul. He cultivated all the way until noon when someone knocked on his door. Qin Yin smiled. It should be lunch. Not necessarily. Lin Muyu closed his eyes. This aura is very strong and very familiar. It doesn't feel like the Royal Forest Guard. Oh. When the servant opened the door it was indeed Chu Chu. Lin Muyu was in the middle of cultivating so he didn't open his eyes. However, he sensed Chu Chu flying over. He brought a plant to Lin Muyu's nose and smiled. Little Lin, can you smell what this is? Lin Muyu was stunned. 7-colored lotus. Oh, you can smell it. Chu Chu smiled in high spirits. Now I can completely refine the medicinal essence of the 7-colored lotus. Open your eyes quickly after cultivating for 1 cycle. I'll show you. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh when he heard him showing off in front of an expert. After 1 cycle he opened his eyes and said, Chu, let's begin. Chu Chu bowed to Qin Han who was behind him. Qin Han raised his hand and smiled. Great Minister of War, please do as you please. You as your disciple and my descendant. We don't have to stand on ceremony. Thank you, Your Majesty. Chu Chu cupped his hands again and placed the paper bag of the 7-colored lotus on the ground. With a slight shake of his hand, the aura of the condensed hand was emitted and quickly extracted the medicinal essence of the 7-colored lotus. At the same time he opened his other hand and extracted the medicinal essence of a skeleton tree 3 meters away. Just like what Chu Chu said, although he wasn't very talented in alchemy, he was very diligent and obsessed with it. Coupled with his holy heaven realm cultivation, it wasn't difficult for him to become an outstanding alchemist. Now I can refine the third-grade dream of returning peak. Chu Chu smiled in high spirits. I'm getting closer to my dream of becoming an alchemist god. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. Chu Chu's pursuit of alchemy had indeed reached the stage of, one must be crazy to become a god. Chapter 454. After refining a bit of dream back to the peak, Chu Chu continued to say excitedly, do you have any other good formulas that you can teach Grandpa? Don't hide it. Lin Muyu said, Grandpa Chu Chu, don't tell me you really want to replace Big Sis Chu Yao as the spiritual medicine department's head deacon? Pa. Chu Chu said, being a head deacon is such a boring thing. Only that little girl Chu Yao and that old man Lei Hong would be obsessed with it. I Chu Chu have no interest in that kind of thing. I just want to concoct medicine that no one in the world has ever thought of. I know you have a lot of recipes that you haven't taken out yet. Just tell me, no matter how expensive the ingredients are, I will scour the empire to find them. Right then. Men, bring me a brush and paper. Yes. A royal guard nodded respectfully. Not long after, the brush, ink and paper were brought out. Lin Muyu spread the paper on the ground, then sat cross-legged and wrote down a new recipe for Chu Chu. Heaven Chung Powder LV8. Also known as Advanced Strength Potion, greatly increases physical strength. Fire Dragon Blood, Dragon Saliva Grass, Blood Ginseng, ratio 7:14. 16 chilled for an entire day, becomes a solid pill. Divine Illusion Potion LV9, confuses the opponent, causes hallucinations. Qilin Horn Powder, Southern Sky Bamboo Juice, ratio 4:6 refines with flames, spirit. Awakening Pill LV9, has a 30% chance of the user comprehending a martial spirit. Xianxia Blood Merchant Grass, ratio 5:5 Fire Evaporation Method Divine Pill LV10. Refines the physique, increases the power of the godhead. Candle Dragon Horn Powder, Xianxia Blood Heart Calming Grass, ratio 7:2:1 refines with flames. Chu Chu was dumbfounded by the sight. Even Qin Yin could not help but open her mouth wide. The recipes that Lin Muyu had written were all things that they had heard of, but they had never seen before. It can't be. Chu Chu was stunned. You even know how to concoct the legendary divine pill that has been lost for tens of thousands of years? As long as there's a formula for the herbs, there's nothing I can't do. Lin Muyu spread her arms and said helplessly, it's just a pity that there's no chance to see a beast like the Torch Dragon, and Xianxia is also an ancient divine beast. There's no way to get the herbs, so it's useless even if we know the method of refinement. Chu Chu quickly put away the paper and held it in his hands as if he was afraid to destroy it. He said, I was fortunate enough to see Xianxia once before. It was just that my cultivation wasn't high enough that I didn't dare to challenge Xianxia. But now I can. Will this spirit awakening pill be useful? Of course it is useful. Lin Muyu nodded and said, Grandpa Chu Chu, think about it. How many descendants of famous generals in the empire didn't comprehend their ancestors' martial spirits? There are too many. The spirit awakening pill has a high chance of awakening the sleeping martial spirits in their bodies. It's effective even after they've reached adulthood. Moreover, for those without martial spirits who have no hope of cultivating martial arts, the spirit awakening pill is also a treasure. This is a chance for them to change the world and reach the peak of their lives. That's great. Chu Chu quickly folded the paper and put it into his space bag. He said with a smile, Your Highness, this old subject is going to enter the deep mountains and forests to train again. Lanyan City will be temporarily handed over to Emperor Qin Han and you to guard. Lord Chu Chu is going to look for new herbs again? Qin Yin blinked and asked. Yes. Chu Chu said in a low voice, this is this old subject's lifelong pursuit. Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. She stuck out her round breasts and said with a smile, Chu Chu was originally a person outside the realm. Xiao Yin left Chu Chu in Zetian Palace as the Minister of War because of her own selfish desires. Now that the situation in Lanyan City has been settled, Lord Chu Chu won't be wronged anymore. You can go wherever you want. With the ancestors guarding Lanyan City, I believe those who are not loyal will be much more restrained. This old subject thinks so too. Thank you for your forgiveness, Your Highness. Chu Chu bowed respectfully again. He then stood up and patted Lin Muyu's shoulder. He said, Grandpa is going out for a while. I'll come back to see you in at least 1 or 2 months. At most half a year. Lin Muyu nodded. Be careful, Grandpa. I hope you can step into the divine state as soon as possible. Also, if you find Xianxi's blood but don't have the ability to refine it into the awakening pill, remember to bring it back. I can. Chu couldn't help but laugh. Brat, you look down on Grandpa too much. Alright, I'm leaving. Wait for my good news. By the way, if I refine the awakening pill, can I ask that little girl Chiao to certify me as a drug god? No. Lin Muyu shook her head. The awakening pill is a level 9 medicine. You can only be certified as a drug king if you refine a second-grade awakening pill. You can only be certified as a drug god if you refine a level 10 second-grade medicine. Otherwise, Grandpa, do you think drug gods are so common? Oh my god, Chu cupped his hands and said, time waits for no man. I won't talk to you anymore. I'm leaving now. Goodbye. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin couldn't help but smile at the same time as they watched Chu leave Yangxin Pavilion. The next day, Qin Yin announced the prefectural system and world subjugation. Even though Tang Lan and Su Muyun were slightly unwilling, Qin Yin used the title of king to shut their mouths. One was the king of Yunzhong while the other was the king of the Seven Seas. This made them lose their control over the various provinces. In order to compensate Tang Lan, Qin Yin reconferred nobility and promoted Tang Lu and Tang Tian to Marquis Lingbei and Marquis Lingxi respectively. On the same day, over 1,000 scrolls of the Empress's imperial edict were escorted by specially assigned winged cavalry to the various officials in the Seven Seas province, Yunzhong province, Lingbei province, Songnan province, Earthstar province and Tianshu province. The edict was immediately implemented throughout the entire nation. The various holy temples would also begin to recruit cultivators to form their own armies and encourage cultivators to become soldiers of the empire. This was the essence of world subjugation. In the afternoon, a column of heavy cavalry escorted the demon race's princess Feng Jing to the steel protective wall. Zheng Yifan personally led the God Might Battalion to negotiate for peace, while Lin Muyu led 10,000 cavalrymen from the Longdan army camp to accompany and protect them. Together with the 10,000 imperial guards led by Zhang Wei, the military strength was sufficient. This round trip took at least a month. Every time Lin Muyu rode on a warhorse, she would enter a sleeping cultivation state and continuously refine the origin of the two types of martial souls. Wei Chou, Situ Sin, Situ Shui and the rest guarded her so she was safe. 10 days later, in the depths of Lin Muyu's Yi, the Seven Luminaries' Holy Gourd was no longer the Seven Luminaries' Holy Gourd. What Lin Muyu saw was only a tender green sprout growing in the soil, and the god-binding chains were no longer golden chains, but a piece of or with a faint golden luster. Is this the origin? Lin Muyu was a little surprised. However, when he thought of what Qin Han said about the degree of fusion between martial souls, Lin Muyu didn't dare to slack off. He could faintly feel that this sprout still wasn't the origin of the Seven Luminaries' Holy Gourd. After all, the sprout was also born from something else. Therefore he continued to cultivate. The negotiation outside the steel wall went very smoothly. The Empire handed over Feng Jing'e, and the Devil Race compensated the Empire with 100 carts of Shindu coins and 1 cart of magic crystal coins. According to the Empress's orders before they left, everything that the Devil Race compensated would belong to Lin Muyu. Therefore Zheng Yifan didn't care too much about it. It seemed that after returning to the Empire, Zheng Yifan's desire for power was getting more and more indifferent, and it was precisely because of this that he was valued by the Empress. In the evening, carts of Shindu coins were transported into the steel wall. Lin Muyu ordered that they set off the next day to transport the coins back to Lanyan City. Shindu coins couldn't be circulated in the Empire, since they were the Devil Race's currency after all. However, these Shindu coins were made of gold so they could be melted down and remade into Jining coins. As for the magic crystal coins, Lin Muyu held a magic crystal coin under the light of the setting sun. She could faintly feel the surging power coming from it. This wasn't an ordinary stone but a form of energy. Suddenly Lin Muyu had the idea of pocketing all of these magic crystal coins for himself. However, when he thought about it, he was the commander of the empire and one of the feudal vassals, so he gave up on this idea. He couldn't ruin his character at a time like this. The next day he returned to the city and continued to cultivate on the way back. He used the mental cultivation method taught by Qin Han to catalyze his martial soul to return to its original state. This process was extremely slow and torturous. It wasn't until the day before they arrived at Lanyan City that there was finally some progress. In the depths of Yi, the 7 luminaries' holy gourd's sprout had disappeared. When Lin Muyu dug up the soil, she saw a seed that glowed with a faint golden light. It was a god's seed. This 7 luminaries' holy gourd was indeed extraordinary. It wasn't as simple as a green gourd. Lin Muyu was ecstatic. The next morning, the god-binding chain returned to its original state as well. It looked like an unpolished stone, gray and dull. When Lin Muyu put the god's seed and the unpolished stone together, she could faintly feel a sense of appreciation between the 2 martial souls. It was as if both martial souls were saying to each other, "So you were once so weak." After nearly a month, the martial soul fusion's 2nd heavenly realm was finally completed. Next, the cultivation of the 3rd heavenly realm began. When Lin Muyu entered Yi again, the 2 martial souls had been restored to the 9th level. The 7 luminaries' holy gourd was lush and the starlight god-binding chain was shining with a golden light. This time she needed to see what these 2 martial souls looked like in a more perfect state. At night, Qin Yin hosted a banquet in Zetian Palace to entertain Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, Xiang Yu, Tang Lan, Su Muyun, Suyu Yao Yuan and other important officials. At the same time, after the implementation of the state system, the first batch of taxes for the first year had arrived in Lanyan City. The Minister of Revenue was so happy that his old face was flushed with happiness. But soon after, Qin Yin ordered the establishment of a new supervisory department in the Fire Sparrow Department, which was to supervise the details of the revenue and expenditure of the Ministry of Revenue, the Ministry of War, the Ministry of Works, and so on. In this way, no matter how rich Lanyan City was, only the royal family was rich. The ministers who accepted bribes would be severely punished, and they could only obediently serve the country. After the banquet, Lin Muyu returned to the Holy Palace. After resting for a day, she came to Yangxin Pavilion again to receive Qin Han's teachings. Qin Han, the emperor of the empire, was second only to Qin Yi in terms of talent. He had indeed helped Lin Muyu and Qin Yin a lot in their cultivation. This could be seen from Lin Muyu's cultivation of martial soul fusion and Qin Yin's stepping into the Saint realm. Qin Yin even sent a letter to invite Tang Xiaoxi back to the imperial capital to receive Qin Han's teachings.